Chapter 1449. Listening to the conversation between the Thug Patriarch and Han Guanshu, Han Fei couldn't help but scratch his head. When he became the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island, he suddenly found that there were a lot of strong masters in the Thousand Star City. Han Fei thought to himself. The old turtle said, "Well, you've been quite successful." Han Fei rolled his eyes. A yo-yo? My sense of accomplishment has been completely destroyed by these people. The Thug Patriarch glanced at Han Fei. Han Fei, you seem to have won today's battle. In fact, the sea demons haven't been annihilated yet, which is one reason. Secondly, the situation in the Thousand Star City is more complicated than you think. The big clans have been working hard for thousands of years. They won't decline in just a few battles. Han Fei said indifferently, the trap of the Empyrean waterfall has been uncovered. The Black Killer Snail King is not a fool. He should already know the situation here. Without any benefits, he doesn't need to fight against human beings now. So, he won't come in a short time. No matter how many venerables there are in the Thousand Star City, they can't stand the death of a few every few years. If they continue to die like this, what will happen to the Thousand Star City? Besides, with the restraint of the 7 major sects, they can't do anything in a short time even if they want to. Suddenly, Han Fei looked around. Where is that old man Ren Tianfei? Han Guanshu said lightly, he didn't come in person. He sent 2 clones with the power of 2 punches. Han Fei wondered, he can't come? Han Guanshu said, his situation is complicated. You'll know when you see him later. The Thug Patriarch chuckled. Boy, just become a king as soon as you can. I'll guard the level 3 fishery and wait for the day you become a king. Then the Thug Patriarch looked at the void in the direction of peaceful. With a swish, he tore the void open and fled. As for Old Bai and Old Jiang, seeing that everyone had left, they didn't need to say anything. Old Jiang patted Han Fei on the shoulder. Brat, the Thug Academy is about to be rebuilt. Where do you think it should be? Han Fei grinned. The Blue Sea Town. Has our land been occupied? Old Jiang glared. Who dares to occupy it? Han Fei said, that's great. The 36 towns in the future will be small. Its status was no weaker than that of the Thousand Star City. The big families control the Thousand Star City, and we control the 36 towns. Only in this way can we challenge them. Old Bai nodded slightly. That's good too. Let's go back to the Blue Sea Town and take a look when we have time. He didn't say anything to Han Fei, and even Old Jiang didn't say much. After all, the father and son must have something to say. This kind of victory seemed to be a matter of course, but in fact, there were countless mysteries within. Han Fei, on the other hand, had just joined the game and barely made a move in this game. However, it was also this move that made everyone realize that Han Fei's power made them have to pay attention to him. After Old Bai and Old Jiang left, only Han Fei and Han Guanshu were left here. Han Fei had always felt that the way he got along with Old Han was weird. In the end, he didn't show any father-son bond, and all he taught was scheming. Han Guanshu smiled faintly. Did you gain a lot this time? Han Fei nodded. You've become a semi-venerable. But it's hard to say whether you can become a venerable or not. Han Guanshu nodded slightly. Thus, after becoming a venerable, you will also be one of the top powerhouses in this yin-yang heaven. To be honest, I don't want you to become a venerable. However, I still have a lot of things to do, so you must become a venerable. At least, you still need to pick up your sister? Seeing Old Han's frankness, Han Fei couldn't help but be a little confused. A lot of things? Han Guanshu smiled faintly. You become a venerable first. I'm still very free for the time being. Han Fei didn't care about this. At most, he would go to talk to his mother. The problem was, didn't he have to wait until he became a king? After he entered the 9th Immortal Palace and learned more about it, he wasn't in a hurry. Han Fei looked at Old Han with a strange look. Old Han. Tengu. Han Guanshu said lightly, just be normal. However, you probably won't be able to see him in a short time. After chatting for a while, the two had nothing to talk about. Han Fei immediately changed the topic. Old Han, what realm are you in? Han Guanshu's lips curled up slightly. Quite high. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. How high is that? Han Guanshu casually glanced at Han Fei's chest. I'm afraid that I'll scare you if I tell you. By the way, the turtle inside, I don't know how you came here. However, don't bully my son because he doesn't understand the world of the strong. When my son becomes a king, you will be his servant and sign a master-servant contract with my son. Otherwise, I will kill you. Han Fei? The old turtle? After saying that, Han Guanshu stepped into the void with a swoosh, and no one knew where he went. Han Fei was stunned for a long time before he said lightly, Old Yuan, what kind of contract is a master-servant contract? The old turtle roared angrily, You've gone too far. I'm a king. Oh no. The old turtle, who was cursing, suddenly trembled and hurriedly said, Your father caught my clone. He set up a life-or-death restriction spell on me. Han Fei was at a loss and didn't understand. However, it sounded like it was very powerful. Han Fei ignored the roaring old turtle and looked down, only to see that this place had already been smashed into ruins. Here, sword chi and fist lights were everywhere. All kinds of great techniques almost overturned the sea. It went all the way down for dozens of miles, and almost everything was turned upside down. Until now, the residual power here was not something that an explorer could touch. Han Fei couldn't help but shake his head. However, Han Fei suddenly grabbed a huge piece of iron from the bottom of the sea. In Forge the Universe, pieces of strange bones and strange iron with strange auras were melted into the huge iron. Han Fei used his fingers as knives, and one weird array after another appeared on the huge iron. Half an hour later, after Han Fei blasted 12 rounds of the 100 Wars hammer, a huge pillar was forged. Bam! As soon as this pillar appeared, the power emitted by all the great techniques and special abilities within a radius of 10,000 kilometers was all absorbed and gathered on the pillar. Of course, even if the power here was reduced by 90% in an instant, it was still not something ordinary people could come here. Seeing this scene, the old turtle was surprised. You used an ultra-quality divine weapon to fix this place. Aren't you afraid that it will be pulled away? Han Fei thought for a moment. This place is only 300,000 kilometers away from the Scattered Stars Island. In the future, the sea will be open. Now if we don't seal this place, it will become a dangerous place. However, what you said makes sense. Then only humans can use it. After fiddling with it for a while, Han Fei finally modified this huge rod. In the end, Han Fei stood above the sea and looked at the ocean abyss that had formed here. He thought, it's still a bit dangerous here. So, I'd better set up hundreds of arrays first to make this vortex much smaller. In the future, human beings can also explore this place. After doing all this, Han Fei grinned and engraved the words, Ocean Pacifying Godly Needle, on this rod with snowmorn. He didn't use the words, Wishful Rod, nor did he engrave its weight. Han Fei suddenly realized that the golden cudgel might have been destroyed by someone in a fight. That's why he installed an array eye on it. Otherwise, why would the ocean be turbulent after Monkey King pulled it away? After doing all this, Han Fei drew an array with one hand. This was a directional teleportation array leading to the general's mansion. Swish! As soon as he entered the general's mansion, Han Fei immediately opened all the seals. The power of wish was surging in crazily. He knew that the people on the Scattered Stars Island should be excited at this moment. Han Fei activated the Dao Seed, and the white mist bridge suddenly reappeared. With a thought in his mind, the surging power of wish was quickly integrated into the white mist. The white mist was rapidly decreasing at a subtle speed visible to the naked eye. Half an hour. 2 hours. After an hour, the white mist had become a shallow layer, less than 1/10 of the original. And Han Fei also felt that the power of wish seemed to have been reduced by half. After another half an hour, Han Fei finally saw the body of the bridge. It was a kind of bridge made of green jade, not a white jade bridge, nor any other color, but an emerald-like jade bridge, which looked a little weird. When the white mist completely dissipated, the power of wish was no longer consumed. The old turtle said in surprise, What kind of Tao is this? Han Fei said with a smile, You'll know when you walk over. This time, Han Fei didn't hesitate at all and stepped onto the green jade stone bridge. Just like last time, as soon as Han Fei stepped on it, he lost contact with the old turtle and seemed to have lost contact with the outside world. At this moment, Han Fei looked at the outside world and the door from the bridge. Suddenly, he found that time was still. Hiss! Han Fei secretly took a breath. Yes, the time in the outside world was frozen. Oh no, or rather, the time on this green jade stone bridge was frozen. That was to say, there was no concept of time when he walked on this bridge. This also meant that if he fought with others and needed to use this bridge when necessary, others might not be able to see it at all. Clatter, clatter. It was effortless for Han Fei to walk to the 7th floor of the bridge. When he walked to the 8th floor, Han Fei paused. In the past, when he walked here, Han Fei felt that his body was suppressed by a terrifying force and it was difficult for him to stand. He wondered what the green jade stone bridge would be like when it was fully revealed. Bam! Han Fei took a step forward. When he took this step, Han Fei found that there was still gravity. This gravity was about 1,000 times. Of course, this gravity couldn't suppress Han Fei. Han Fei was overjoyed. This gravity was less than 1% of the previous one. On the second step, Han Fei frowned slightly. The gravity seemed to have doubled? On the third step, Han Fei confirmed that the gravity doubled again. Han Fei immediately took a breath of cold air. In other words, below the 8th floor, he had to bear more than 100,000 times the gravity? Was his great Tao such a scam? Chapter 1450. The Black Killer Snail King could reach 10,000 times the gravity with a flip of its hand. Even so, Han Fei wasn't afraid at all. What was terrifying about gravity was not just the weight, but its irregular changes. Even if you could resist the ultra-high-pressure gravity, if this kind of gravity was changing, your movements would be inaccurate, which was the most fatal. And this kind of directional pressure was the least fatal. Therefore, even though Han Fei estimated that he might have to bear nearly 130,000 times the gravity in the end, he didn't panic. Not only was Han Fei not panicked, but he was even a little surprised. Although he didn't feel much about his golden body, in fact, anyone who came to hold it might not be able to do so. It could be said that Han Fei had subtle power control in his daily walking and riding. Only in this way could he look no different from ordinary people. In other words, at this point, Han Fei was cultivating when he was walking, when he was sitting, and even when he was sleeping. If he didn't cultivate and lay on the bed would definitely collapse. Wasn't this the trouble of cultivators? At this moment, he stepped on the bridge. The 1st floor. The 2nd floor. The 3rd floor. When he reached the 8th floor, Han Fei felt that his legs were trembling. After all, he was heavier now. Fortunately, he had a golden body and his spiritual heritage was transcendent. Therefore, Han Fei just steadied himself and then completely stood still. With every step Han Fei took, he could see that there were 3 paths ahead, but they were all blurry. It seemed that only when he got off the stone bridge could he see them clearly. This time, he was very successful. When Han Fei walked off the green jade stone bridge, it wasn't his eyes that lit up, but his mind was refreshed. It seemed that, in the dark, there was a power passing to him and telling him that the road in front of him could change at any time, and it didn't specify which road he had to take. Instead, he could take all 3 roads, and there were even other roads that he could take. Wow! Han Fei gasped. Damn it, from the beginning to the end, everyone's answer was to take a road and achieve a great way. The great Taos attracted one another. If one walked on someone else's great Tao, it was possible that someone else would take advantage of them. But now, his great Tao could be switched between different paths? Didn't that mean that if someone wanted to cut his leeks, he could just change his path? Thinking of this, Han Fei couldn't have been more excited. It was said that there were thousands of great Taos, but only one was chosen. But he could walk out of 3? Wait a minute. What Han Fei comprehended was the Tianqi Great Way on the left and the Invincible Road on the right. However, it seemed that these 2 paths could be replaced. In other words, he could switch between them. A terrifying and weird idea popped up in Han Fei's mind again. It seemed like he could use this Tao to copy the great Tao of others. Han Fei looked at the heavenly opening avenue, his mind clear. However, the holy light on that path immediately faded, turning into a flat ground covered by an invisible force. The Black Killer King's path of gravity? Han Fei felt that as long as he stood on this path, he would be able to use the Tao of gravity. However, Han Fei still changed it back. When the holy light reappeared, Han Fei breathed a sigh of relief. The Tao of gravity was not as good as the Tianqi Great Way. With this path, as long as he wasn't crushed into pieces, even if ordinary venerables didn't even have a chance to be resurrected, he should be able to save them. Of course, this was just Han Fei's current feeling. After all, the Tianqi Great Way was just a great Tao. In this world, there was no absolutely invincible great Tao. Even if there was, it should be his own invincible road, not the Tianqi Great Way. As for the invincible road on the right, Han Fei thought that this was a path that he had to take. After all, this path was too powerful. The reason why he had always been able to defeat the strong and was invincible in his realm was because of the invincible Great Way. In Han Fei's current situation, in fact, he could use both the Tianqi Great Way and the invincible road. However, now Han Fei was only using the most basic ones and didn't go deep. Want to go deep? He probably had to walk on these two paths to be able to succeed. In the end, Han Fei focused all his attention on the middle road. Before, every time he came to this bridge, Han Fei would see, on the middle road, there was an identical version of himself. Now, when Han Fei had walked down, he found that this identical version of himself had disappeared. Neither the left nor the right had changed. Why was the middle path the only one that had changed? In Han Fei's heart, a rather absurd understanding suddenly appeared. Over the years, Han Fei had always thought that he could create something out of nothing. That was the power of fantasy. He imagined that he had some kind of power. However, at this moment, when Han Fei suddenly turned around, a scene that made his blood run cold appeared. He found that on the Jade Bridge, there was another version of himself, walking down the bridge. Han Fei's eyelids twitched wildly. What kind of weird great Tao is this? Is the version of myself on the bridge me or the version of myself under the bridge me? So, every time I look down from the bridge, I can see another version of myself? Little did he know that when he looked up from the bridge, he could always see another version of himself. Gulp. Han Fei swallowed. This was a bit weird, so weird that Han Fei doubted whether he was himself or not. Feeling that his heart had stopped for 3 or 5 seconds, Han Fei suddenly shivered. No, the version of myself I see on the bridge is emotionless, just like a robot. It can't be like me. Han Fei stuck out his tongue and twisted his butt at the version of himself on the bridge, almost doing a 360-degree spin. Feeling that he was a retard, Han Fei stopped and looked back at the road in the middle again, with a smile on his lips. Just now, he had scared himself. In fact, there were no two versions of himself. Why could he see another version of himself on the bridge and under the bridge? This was understandable. Perhaps it was because he was walking towards a version of himself with different possibilities. It could also be said that he was walking towards his future version. There was a gap of 7 or 8 steps between the two versions of himself. Therefore, there was a variable in the middle, a variable that might influence the Great Tao. In these 8 steps, he could walk on any of the Great Taos, which gave him thousands of possibilities. Then, according to this reasoning, he could also take countless Great Tao. Phew, Han Fei's chest rose and fell, and after gasping for breath for dozens of seconds, he gradually calmed down. The temptation was too great to resist. Originally, Han Fei thought that 3 Great Tao was already very impressive. The other 2 could be changed, which already gave him a lot of Great Tao. If the middle road may be all Great Tao, then its existence actually overlaps with the 2 Great Tao on the left and right. Han Fei frowned and was pondering, trying to sort out his thoughts again. First of all, the middle road is my real Great Tao. There is no doubt about this. The Great Tao on the left and right can be changed, but not in the middle. Secondly, if I have the power of 3 Great Tao at the same time, then the middle road must be different from the left and right. It needs to be stronger than the left and right roads. Stronger than the invincible road? It's either a secret method or my future self. This is in line with the characteristics of this road. I can randomly steal a certain amount of power in the unpredictable future. However, this kind of power has a limit. Where is the limit? Soon, Han Fei was no longer confused. After all, the Jade Stone Bridge had been taken. Now, he should be able to use these 3 great Tao. However, the middle road was particularly special. He needed to find the limit of this power. Immediately, Han Fei thought of giving himself the power of the Venerable Realm. This was a terrifying power that transcended realms. The moment Han Fei thought of this, Han Fei felt the weight on his shoulders suddenly became heavy, and his body became soft. Originally, the gravity was only about 130,000 kilograms, but now he felt that it might have suddenly increased by more than 3 times. At that time, Han Fei staggered under the pressure. However, Han Fei still resisted this force. However, when he took a closer look, he was no longer on the Jade Stone Bridge. The scene in the Great Tao suddenly disappeared without a trace, and he was standing in the general's mansion, feeling that his strength had expanded by 3 times. Oh my God! Fortunately, the power is not fake. I can really imagine it. Since Han Fei's strength had been improving rapidly, when he reached the realm of an advanced explorer, the power of secret methods was almost useless. Unless it was a secret method on the level of the Demon King's contract. However, that kind of secret method couldn't be obtained easily, and the side effects were definitely not small. Even the Beast King art could only provide him with less than twice the strength. But what he had now was not a secret method, was it? This was his fucking Great Tao. It had nothing to do with secret methods or anything. Even if he reached the Venerable Realm, maybe this Great Tao could continue to be strengthened. But Han Fei seemed to have discovered something extraordinary. His Great Tao seemed to be getting more and more exaggerated. It was like a secret technique with growth potential. As soon as Han Fei appeared, the old turtle immediately said, "What's going on? Your Great Tao has been taken? But it shouldn't have become so much stronger all of a sudden. Why do I feel that you have already reached the Venerable Realm?" Hearing the old turtle's words, Han Fei immediately thought of something, and the power of the Great Tao immediately dissipated. Although Han Fei really wanted to find someone to fight and feel it in detail. However, a fight between a venerable was too noisy, so it was unnecessary. After this power dissipated, Han Fei felt that his body was a little weak, and his energy and spiritual energy seemed to be insufficient. Immediately, Han Fei swallowed a mouthful of Forge the Universe. This consumption seems to be a bit big. What if I only double it? As Han Fei thought of something again, he felt that his strength had skyrocketed again. However, compared to before, his strength was much weaker. However, it was twice as strong as his original strength. Fuck? So simple? Is this the power of the Great Tao? It's so fucking useful. Chapter 1451. In this world, there were many happy things. Undoubtedly, Han Fei felt extremely happy after knowing the power of truth. Most importantly, this power belonged to him alone. It was something that could grow, and he didn't need to pay any side effects. Seeing the sudden change in Han Fei's strength, the old turtle immediately hummed, "Is your power of truth enhanced?" Han Fei grinned. "Sort of." Han Fei waved his hand and the power dissipated. Immediately afterward, Han Fei waved his hand casually and shouted, "Break!" At that moment, the spiritual energy in his body surged and countless energy fruits collapsed. After about 10 minutes, Han Fei opened his eyes and let out a long breath. Looking at his mind, a string of information popped up. Owner Han Fei level greater than 79, semi-venerable. Spiritual energy 360,000/360,000 chaotic energy untransformed spiritual power 49999/49999 perception range greater than 8,000 kilometers strength greater than 1,912 waves first spiritual heritage unknown second spiritual heritage unawakened first spiritual beast twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish Level 69. Second spiritual beast, unawakened, main art, sky stealing technique, level 6 of void fishing, venerable level, divine quality. When Han Fei saw this information, his heart didn't change much. The increase of spiritual power and perception range was only obtained with the improvement of his realm. After all, semi-venerable was also a venerable. His strength didn't increase much, but it was better than nothing. He believed that when he became a venerable, his strength would definitely soar. As for the amount of spiritual energy, it was no longer attractive to Han Fei. But when he saw the word chaotic energy, Han Fei knew that the demon purification pot had changed. If he became a venerable, there should be a lot of changes. Now, with the blessing of a large amount of power, he became a semi-venerable. In his heart, Han Fei knew that he could make a breakthrough, just like he had a hunch that he could make a breakthrough at any time. Not paying much attention to the changes in information, Han Fei was thinking that what he really needed to study in the semi-venerable realm was his use of the power of truth. This time, after crossing the green jade stone bridge, Han Fei felt that he had some understanding of the truth. Han Fei was very sure that if he used the apocalyptic divine technique now, the effect would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. It would be completely different from when he used decades of vitality every now and then. In the same way, in his mind, there was clear progress on the invincible realm. Of course, Han Fei hadn't had a chance to use these powers yet. He needed to find a place to try them. Buzz! The next moment, Han Fei stepped into Forge the Universe. He hadn't entered Forge the Universe for a long time, mainly because he had been practicing in the past few years. There was no need to come in, and he didn't need to hide at all. Originally, Han Fei hoped that he could test his 3 Daos in Forge the Universe. After all, one had to first familiarize themselves with their own great Dao from half-venerable realm to true venerable realm. Han Fei, who had crossed the stone bridge, also knew very well that this familiarization process was actually very simple. He was different from others. He didn't need to repeatedly ponder and search for his own path. He had stumbled upon his own path by accident. Who knew how this Dao seed was born? Anyway, he was born just like that. The Dao seed coincided with the path of a cultivator. There must be a reason why Han Fei could give birth to such a weird Dao seed. This Dao seed was like a Taotai, doing the work of an empty-handed wolf, copying other people's great Dao, stealing power from the future, and having 3 great Dao at the same time. What was it if not a Tao? But when Han Fei was about to study his own great Dao, he suddenly discovered that there seemed to be some slight changes at the border of Forge the Universe. Before he came in, Han Fei fished things out of Forge the Universe. How could he pay attention to the border? But now, as soon as he entered, Han Fei found something wrong. There seemed to be some blue light twisting at the periphery of Forge the Universe. Han Fei was very familiar with Forge the Universe, but he had never found this before. After a moment of daze, Han Fei turned his eyes to the demon purification pot again. This time, it was not as simple as looking at the information. In the dark nothingness, Han Fei saw that in this nothingness, there were 3 small words, time chain. These 3 small words were lit up, but when exactly did they light up? Han Fei was still dumbfounded. Suddenly, Han Fei's heart tightened. The time when the demon purification pot changed was probably when it swallowed the dragon origin chi in the Battle of the Waterwood Heavenly Island. For a long time, the demon purification pot had not done anything, or the demon purification pot had shown too many abilities. Han Fei felt that this was already the limit of the demon purification pot. All that was left was to find the remaining vines of the demon purification pot. But now it seemed that this was not the case at all. It was very likely that the demon purification pot was not full before, so some of its abilities had not been revealed. As he became stronger and stronger, he encountered more and more opportunities, and the special energy he could get also increased. In fact, the demon purification pot had been growing. Immediately, Han Fei imprinted his mind on it, trying to open the so-called time chain and see what this new function was. However, when Han Fei's perception scanned it, he found that some information emerged. Unlocking the time chain requires 10 billion points of spiritual energy or 100 streams of chaotic energy. Wow! Han Fei immediately gasped. Is this a robbery? 10 billion points of spiritual energy? Han Fei did have some. Of course, if he could convert demonic energy into spiritual energy, it would be even better. Even if he had to use spiritual energy, he had enough. However, compared with the large number of ultra-quality demonic stones he had, his spiritual energy reserves were not so abundant. As for the so-called chaotic energy, he obviously didn't have any. He had encountered so many opportunities, and Old Yuan had followed him for a long time. However, he didn't seem to have collected much chaotic energy. Immediately, Han Fei asked, "Old Yuan, how many streams of chaotic energy do you have now?" The old turtle's heart skipped a beat. "Why do you ask this? I only have 2 streams of chaotic energy so far. When I killed the Venerable One, I even wasted a strand of it." Han Fei didn't really want to rob the old turtle of his chaotic energy. He just wanted to judge the difficulty of obtaining chaotic energy according to the old turtle's answer. Now it seemed that this thing was not easy to get. Even if Old Yuan was lying to him, he probably didn't have much chaotic energy. Even if he had 10, so what? He didn't believe that this guy could hide 100 streams. Obviously, it was more difficult to obtain 100 streams of chaotic energy than to obtain 10 billion points of spiritual energy. Immediately, Han Fei gathered 20,000 ultra-quality demonic stones and extracted a tremendous amount of demonic energy. It would be great if the demon purification pot could absorb it. If the demon purification pot didn't want it, it didn't matter. He could also cultivate with demonic energy. Anyway, he could take his time. Maybe it would be useful in fights in the future. Open. The massive amount of demonic energy, accompanied by a small amount of spiritual spring, evaporated at the same time and was crazily sucked by the demon purification pot. Immediately, Han Fei was speechless. So, for the demon purification pot, demonic energy and spiritual energy were actually the same kind of energy? The demon purification pot ate both and didn't care which one it ate. Seeing that, Han Fei set up a spirit gathering array, trying to absorb the demonic chi that was absorbed by the demon purification pot. However, compared to the power of the demon purification gourd, the spirit gathering array was completely insignificant and useless. But fortunately, the demon purification pot absorbed indiscriminately. Therefore, in addition to the demonic energy and spiritual spring that had been extracted, a large amount of spiritual energy was also extracted from the mountainous pile of ultra-quality demonic stones. In less than 100 seconds, Han Fei found that most of the demonic energy had been consumed. As for his own spiritual energy, only less than 500 million had been consumed. At this time, the 10 billion points of spiritual energy needed by the demon purification pot were full. Han Fei let out a long sigh of relief. However, there were still 3 billion points of demonic energy, which still filled the entire Forge the Universe. With a thought, Han Fei filled the edge of Forge the Universe with the demonic energy and let it slowly expand the size of Forge the Universe. Compared with demonic energy, Han Fei naturally preferred spiritual energy. However, Han Fei knew very well that both demonic energy and spiritual energy would be gradually abandoned by him in the near future. And the chaotic energy that he hadn't seen yet would become the mainstream. The old turtle was dumbfounded by Han Fei's series of actions. He knew that Han Fei must have made an exchange with the demon purification pot again. It seemed that this little calabash had the ability to steal the fortune of heaven and earth. He swallowed 10 billion points of demonic energy just like that, and he didn't hesitate at all. The moment the time chain was unlocked, Han Fei immediately discovered that there seemed to be some faint blue halos circulating in this Forge the Universe. He seemed to have seen this kind of halo before. Before Han Fei remembered where he had seen it, suddenly the old turtle exclaimed, "What, the Great Path of Time? Your world can modify the Great Path of Time independently?" Han Fei was dumbfounded. What Great Path of Time? However, Han Fei was not a fool. Hearing what the old turtle said, he couldn't help but say, "Old Yuan, tell me more clearly. Does this time acceleration mean that the time in my space has changed?" The old turtle was silent for a long time before he said, "Yes. This is a forbidden technique. Some kings often secretly create such small secret realms. Now, let's see how fast time passes in this world of yours and we'll know." Han Fei nodded. That's easy. With a thought, Han Fei activated the Gemini Divine Technique, one inside and the other outside. After only a few minutes, Han Fei confirmed excitedly, twice. 1 day outside, 2 days in here. Phew. The old turtle immediately breathed a sigh of relief. You scared me. Only twice. That's not a big deal. Time acceleration below 10 times is acceptable. After hearing the old turtle's words, Han Fei glanced at the demon purification pot obediently. At this moment, Han Fei saw in the void, under the time chain, the number 2 of 128. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, what about more than 10 times acceleration? The old turtle said, that's a forbidden technique. You will be hunted. Han Fei's eyelids twitched and he asked, who will be hunted? The old turtle subconsciously said, the Temple of Time, of course. Ba. I didn't say anything. Han Fei was deep in thought. It seemed that he had one more enemy. This one seemed to be quite impressive. Chapter 1452. Han Fei had always thought that only mysterious creatures like the time dragon carp could make use of things like time. Like Little Black, Little White, and Master Hexagon. The birth of these creatures was irregular but extremely mysterious. That was why they had some strange abilities. Now, the demon purification pot had given birth to a power that could slow down time, making the time in the entire Forge the Universe completely independent from the time of the outside world, which was undoubtedly beneficial to his cultivation. And his current Forge the Universe had a radius of 10 kilometers and was full of spiritual energy and energy. In fact, it was completely enough for his cultivation. Han Fei didn't intend to expand Forge the Universe all the time, so he just wanted to expand it. After all, once he became a king in the future and established his own chaotic sea, it would truly belong to him. Just when Han Fei was about to continue experimenting, he suddenly sensed that the star tortoise had returned with an undersea mountain, preparing to fill the hollowed place on the side of the Empyrean waterfall. Han Fei thought to himself, anyway, I've already become a semi-venerable, mastered the power of Tao, discovered the anomaly of the demon purification pot, and disassembled enough spiritual energy. In a short time, he had almost settled all the prerequisites for becoming a venerable, so he wasn't in a hurry to become a venerable. After Han Fei left the general's mansion, he had to continue harvesting a wave of power of wish. He had just solved more than half of the mysteries of Tao. Although there was still a lot left, he might not have many such opportunities to collect power of wish in the future, so he decided to harvest it all at once. After leaving the general's mansion, Han Fei scanned the area with his perception, only to find that the star tortoise had gone to move the mountain again. Xue Shenqi was not on the Scattered Stars Island. He must have gone to bring Zhou Ling and the others back. Elder Chen went back to the Scattered Stars archive room. The cloud whale was floating in the sea 6,000 kilometers away, carrying thousands of people, all of whom were the soldiers of the Scattered Stars Island who chased after the enemy. Looking at some people laughing and cursing on the back of the cloud whale, Han Fei couldn't help but wonder what would you think if you knew that you were sitting on a semi-king? Anyway, Han Fei glanced around and found that except for the star tortoise, who deliberately watched the rocks flying back and forth to attract the attention of countless people, no other venerable appeared on the Scattered Stars Island. Han Fei mourned for the Black Snail King in his heart. If that guy was bolder and came back now, well, it was still useless. Tang Yan was still here. For some reason, Han Fei was in a good mood. He snorted and jumped out with a swish. Outside the West City, the Scattered Stars Island was in a mess. Meng Liang of the Island Patrol team sent 10 hidden fishers to summon the soul-summoning 36 towns. Meng Liang felt that outsiders had to witness such a shocking battle on the Scattered Stars Island. Also, although countless soldiers of the Scattered Stars Island had died, most people were in a mixed state of joy and sorrow. Someone looked up to the sky and shouted, "The war is finally over." Someone sat casually on the sand that was full of corpses of sea demons and took out a bottle of wine from his sea-swallowing seashell. Slurp. The man gulped down a mouthful of wine and sprinkled it on the beach. "Liuzi, we won. I'll take you home." On some battlefields, some teams were already in chaos. They sat together and laughed. Someone shouted, "I've never felt so good in my life. I really want to go back and sleep for 3 days and 3 nights." Someone laughed and scolded, "If you go back, can you still sleep? I'm afraid you won't even dare to sleep for 3 hours." Someone sighed leisurely. "I wonder how General Han and the others are doing." The Scattered Stars Island won, but General Han and the others are still fighting. 2 more died. It can be seen how fierce the battle has been. Everyone nodded. At this moment, there was still some red rain floating in the sky. After all of them were dignified Exalt Realm experts, and they ought to be figures of legend. But today, one after another died. During Xue Shenqi's reign, there hadn't been a single venerable who died. After the battle, it was time to clean up the battlefield and treat the injuries. The people of the Tactical Command Center were arranging some uninjured soldiers nearby to quickly clean up the battlefield. All the resources were not allowed to be pocketed. After calculating the casualties of each division and regiment, the Logistics Readiness Bureau would make a unified allocation. Of course, occasionally, some thieves would sneak in and steal, and they would turn a blind eye to it. But there were no big thieves. While cleaning up the periphery of the battlefield, some people were secretly observing. After all, the Scattered Stars Island was a military island, and rules were rules. Winning a battle wasn't the work of just one person. Taking credit for everyone else's work was a violation of military rules and would be punished. More than 4 hours after the battle, this kind of cleaning work was still in full swing. In addition to cleaning the battlefield, the busiest people were the spirit gatherers on the Scattered Stars Island. They all began to swallow spiritual fruits and began to treat the large number of wounded. Those who were seriously wounded after the battle were all gathered together and surrounded by many spirit gatherers. In fact, those who should have died had already died. At that time, Han Fei and the others were fighting and couldn't make it in time to treat them. In fact, there were actually many excellent spirit gatherers on the island. Those who could survive had generally been saved at the first moment. As long as they could survive, they basically wouldn't die. Everyone was a cultivator. How serious the injury could be regarded as certain death. Except for those who were deeply poisoned and couldn't be saved, basically all the people who were still alive could be saved. It was just that the severity of the injury, the sequelae, and whether or not it would damage his foundation, were unknown. On the coast of the Path of Giants, tens of thousands of wounded were lying on the beach. The spirit gatherers were rotating batch after batch. Someone shouted, "Hurry up, the next batch of spirit gatherers, go. Keep them alive. Use spiritual fruits to keep them alive." Some people's intestines were broken, their mouths and noses were bleeding, and their muscles were tense. Under such circumstances, this person was still swallowing spiritual energy and trying to run a technique to slowly recover himself. However, the effect was mediocre. His half-transformed body was almost smashed, and he took a solid blow from the sea demon's water explosion. "Spirit gatherers, treat me. I don't want to be disabled." A spirit gatherer cursed, "Don't fucking move. You can go to the battlefield again as soon as you make it through 1 day." Next to this person, a family was already holding one of his thighs and roaring, "Hey, fix my leg first. If you can't, I'll have no leg." A spirit gatherer shouted, "Fuck off. Your upper half of your thigh has lost a whole piece of flesh. You have to recover your flesh first before you can fix it. Otherwise, your spiritual vein will be blocked, which will be a hidden danger." There were countless such examples, and all kinds of wails and screams were endless. Swish. Suddenly, above the tens of thousands of wounded, the void was torn apart, and a figure came walking over. Hiss. "Marshal Han? Marshal? Nice to meet you, Marshal Han. Marshal, did we really win? Marshal Han, do we still have to fight in the future?" Han Fei shouted, "If you have anything to say, wait until we go to the Sea God Square outside the central city tomorrow. Now, all the non-wounded, retreat a kilometer." In an instant, those spirit gatherers retreated one after another. They had heard that Marshal Han was a top spirit gatherer. Was Marshal Han going to take action in person? Han Fei stepped on the ground, and a spirit gathering circle appeared, gathering the surrounding spiritual energy. Holy light chain. Sizzle, sizzle under Han Fei, a pillar of holy light descended, and the moment it landed, it turned into thousands of lightning chains in the blink of an eye, rushing into the bodies of thousands of wounded. Waves of gasps could be heard, as well as moans of pleasure. There were tens of thousands of spectators, and when they saw this miraculous healing technique, they all let out exclamations of surprise. Someone exclaimed, "Damn, is this a healing technique, Marshal Han? Isn't it too powerful? Healing 1,000 people at a time? Is this a skill that a spirit gatherer can do?" Nonsense, of course not. Do you think any spirit gatherer is as good as Marshal Han? Then let him take the position of Supreme Commander. In everyone's surprised eyes, holy light chains descended one after another. Han Fei's body surged with spiritual energy, and he took out the sky-hanging mirror. In the next moment, Han Fei appeared in the sky. Han Fei looked indifferent and his voice was thunderous. "Everyone, arbiters and centurions, immediately gather all the wounded on the Scattered Stars Island and gather them in the Sea God Square outside the central city. I will treat them together. Tomorrow morning, the whole army will gather in the Sea God Square outside the central city. I will have a happy event to celebrate with you." Someone suddenly looked back. "Is Marshal Han back?" Someone said in surprise, "I knew that Marshal Han couldn't have died. The two venerables who died later must have been from the sea race." Everywhere, the wounded all shouted, "Come on, brother, send me to the central city. I trust Marshal Han's healing technique." Someone was still being treated, but he immediately shouted, "Bro, don't treat me. I'm going to the Sea God Square to be treated." The spirit gatherer was speechless. "You just slashed me a few times. Can't I cure you?" The man waved his hand. "What do you know? Marshal Han treated me in person. How can it be the same?" The Spirit Gatherer. Chapter 1453. In this battle, countless warriors on the human side had died. Many people lingered on the battlefield, harvesting the spoils of war and collecting the remains of their deceased comrades. Those who were injured were sent to the Sea God Square as soon as possible. Someone was still wailing in the blood-red sea. He was carried up and thrown into a fishing boat. The man was still shouting, "No, I'm the only one left in the team. I won't go," the rescue team of the Dangling Fishers Union roared. "Why the fuck are you crying? Snap out of it. Haven't you seen enough life and death on the Scattered Stars Island? Look at you, you're bleeding like a crab. Marshal Han is treating you in person. Why don't you go?" Some members of the pioneer group scattered in the sea area were running to tell each other, "Fuck, stop fighting. Let's go back to the island. Let's go back to the island." The Scattered Stars Island has changed. Even though there was an order to assemble, people were sent in batches. Most of the people who came first were wounded from the various defense lines of the Scattered Stars Island. Some of the wounded in the remote sea area took a long time to gradually return to the island. Sea God Square was packed to the brim. It spanned dozens of kilometers, and there were people everywhere, rubbing shoulders with one another. When the people of the Trans-Island Patrol Team came here with the sightseeing groups from the 536 towns, these people's faces all turned green. After all, there had never been such a large-scale life-and-death battle in the 36 towns. Now they saw so many strong people in miserable states. These people were all powerful existences in their eyes. Some of these strong people were still coming one after another. Their wings were bald, their bodies were dripping with blood, and their bodies were full of holes. These people from the 36 towns had never seen such miserable hidden fishers. There were many hundreds of such strong people flying in the sky. Those who could still fly flew over on their own. Those who couldn't fly were all carried over by fishing boats. They were all hanging fishers, and there were almost no dangling fishers. Most of these people's injuries were the same, and their bodies were full of holes. They were not to be blamed. Almost all the sea demons used harpoons as weapons. Wouldn't the harpoons make holes in their eyes? Some people hadn't even pulled out their harpoons because they were stabbed in the wrong places. If someone's neck was pierced, as long as the harpoon was pulled out, he would probably die on the spot. Therefore, if these people did not hang on to their lives, they would have died a long time ago. In front of the sightseeing team, the leader shouted, "Okay, I think you've seen it when you flew here on the fishing boat. These are the soldiers of the Scattered Stars Island." The number of casualties in this battle was not as simple as just a few 100,000. Those who are still alive, who doesn't have any injuries on their bodies. Wang Jie and He Mingtang trembled slightly. The village head and Li Gang were fine as they had seen some of the world. Of course, the village chief was the calmest. After all, he was already old. Having presided over a village for so long, he had seen his fair share of experts. Wang Jie, village chief, aren't there too many strong people in this world? Village chief sneered, "What do you think? How could the Blue Sea town be short of experts? Where is this place?" It was the legendary unknown place. You all saw the battle just now. More than 10 of the legendary supreme experts of the 9 heavens and 10 earths were killed in an instant. Gang leader killed quite a few of them by himself. Li Gang quickly interjected. He looked so excited as if he had killed all those venerables. The sky curtain had long been closed, and no one knew where Han Fei was. Just when the sea god square was almost full, with a buzz, Han Fei appeared in the sky. "Oh, General Han, General Han. General Han is here. General Han, we won." As soon as Han Fei came, the whole scene was in an uproar. Those guys who were still lying on the ground and groaning even jumped up at this moment. Han Fei shouted, "Lie down, all of you. It won't be too late to get excited after I treat everyone's injuries." Han Fei thought that this was probably the last time he could harvest the power of will in the next few years. Oh no, tomorrow morning, maybe there would be another chance. However, Han Fei didn't want to miss any opportunity now. Want to harvest the power of will? The scene must be grand, and his aura must be strong enough. Han Fei's expression was solemn, and his voice was solemn. "Everyone, after your injuries are healed, rest on the spot and directly enter the state of cultivation." At this moment, under the excitement of the crowd, there were at least 1 million people coming over. They just wanted to see the magical scene of Han Fei's group healing. For many people, this was still a rumor. Today, they were finally lucky enough to see it. How could they not come? Oh! With a roar, Han Fei's body suddenly expanded. In the blink of an eye, he became a giant more than 20 meters tall. The surface of the giant's body was golden. Han Fei shouted, "I said, let there be light." At that instant, several pillars of light came crashing down from the sky. The beams of light landed, and in an instant, they broke into thousands of tentacles. The holy healing divine light rippled among the tens of millions of wounded people. At that moment, the blood rain in the skies stopped in an instant. The raindrops floated in the air, and the clouds and mist in the skies suddenly cleared, forming a dense fog. Those beams of light penetrated the clouds and mist, purified the blood rain, and illuminated a clear sky. Hum, hum, hum like the pulse of the sky and the earth. In a breath, the injuries of tens of millions of people recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Shoot! My injuries are healed, and my flesh and blood are growing. I feel my body is light. My hidden injuries for many years are also healed. Martial Han is so mighty. My eyes can actually see now. Bam! Some people directly broke through and could no longer suppress the power in their bodies. With Han Fei's healing technique, they easily broke through the barrier. Below, every second, thousands of people stood up from the ground. These people all looked up, bathed in this holy light, and their hearts were fanatical. Of course, thinking of Martial Han's words, they immediately sat cross-legged and began to cultivate. In the crowd of onlookers, exclamations rose and fell. A few of them exchanged glances with one another with strange expressions on their faces. Luo Xiaobai's mouth twitched. He hasn't become a king yet, and he's already doing these fancy things? Lu Renquang looked envious. When can I be as domineering as Han Fei? It's only been a few years. If he didn't tell me, I would have thought he had become a king. And he even said, I want their light. Fuck, I'm so jealous. Zhang Xuanyu smacked his lips. How many girls will see this guy's charm? No, I'll become a king first. I want to become a venerable. When the time comes, I'll stab a venerable with my spear. Next to Zhang Xuanyu, a girl was exclaiming. Hearing Zhang Xuanyu's words, she couldn't help but turn her head. She was first shocked by Zhang Xuanyu's appearance, and after a full minute, she snorted. You can't even compare with Han Fei's temperament. Zhang Xuanyu? In the sightseeing group of the 36 towns, even the village leader couldn't help but say, our heavenly water village is going to be famous, very famous. Our village has given birth to a super strong master. Our heavenly water village. The village leader was so excited that his face was flushed. He looked like the last radiance of the setting sun. Han Fei's eyelids twitched, and with a thought, a healing divine light fell on the village leader's body. In an instant, the village leader was furious and felt that his body and mind were cleansed. Gotcha! Almost in an instant, the village leader, who had been stuck at the level of a peak-level great fishing master, directly made a breakthrough, and the stubborn disease in his body was directly cleared. He became a dangling fisher in one fell swoop. He felt that he was 10 years younger all of a sudden, and even his white hair turned black at a speed visible to the naked eye. Around the village leader, everyone looked at him. Even the members of the Round Island inspection team who brought them here couldn't help but envy him. It said that Marshal Han came from this small village. The village leader must have treated him very well in the past. Swish! While Han Fei was healing everyone, the void was suddenly torn apart. Many people were taken aback, thinking that something was wrong. Meow! After God Shui got up, a big cat rushed out first. The moment it saw Han Fei, it immediately shouted, Han Fei, the cat hurts. At this moment, Big Yellow was really covered in wounds. Except for his ears, his whole body was wounded. Even his eyelids had been cut by something, and his 2 claws had been split apart. Behind Big Yellow, people rushed out one after another. Every one of them was dripping with blood. Many people used spirit energy and spirit fruits to keep themselves afloat so that they wouldn't perish on the way. Ning Jingyao's arms were broken. Du Jiangliu's twisted domain didn't help him dodge the attack. There was a big hole in his body. Without Xue Shenqi's voice transmission, an explorer in the crowd roared, Marshal Han, we were ordered to attack the 10,000 Demon Valley. 3,068 people went, 2,502 came back, and 566 people died. All the troops were wounded. We faced the 800,000 troops of the 10,000 Demon Valley and slaughtered 100,000 of them. Fortunately, we returned alive. There was no telling if it was Xue Shenqi who taught this man to say that. Even Han Fei was quite shocked after hearing that. When the ordinary people heard this, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. More than 3,000 people? Attacked an army of 800,000? There were more than 3,000 people here. How strong were they? Many people looked at him in admiration. They must have been the strongest people on the Scattered Stars Island. During the battle, many people thought that their battle had been extremely difficult. However, they couldn't imagine what the 3,000 people had experienced at all. Someone remarked, not that I'm bragging, but 3,000 against 800,000. If I were there, I would have been reduced to ashes in the first encounter. Someone remarked, that's a real heavenly talent. Slaying 100,000 enemies? I'm impressed. Suddenly Wang Jie exclaimed, Xiaoyu, Mr. He, it's He Xiaoyu. He Mingtong's eyes widened. When he saw He Xiaoyu whose hair was sticky with blood, and when He Xiaoyu was still bleeding, he felt dizzy. Meow! As Big Yellow barked again, the heavenly awakening divine art was cast, and the injuries of the 2,500 people quickly recovered. He Xiaoyu was stunned too. She didn't know how she came back. 3 of the 5 people on the team had died. A few days ago, they had dinner together, and now they were gone. If Zhou Ling hadn't been looking after her, she would have been beheaded. She was still a long way from being a real heavenly talent after all. Zhou Ling, on the other hand, was indifferent. She made it back alive after all. Seeing that Han Fei performed a marvelous technique, she couldn't help but put on a smile. Chapter 1454. After healing the wounded and harvesting a wave of power of will, Han Fei returned to the Marshal's mansion. The Marshal's mansion had always been very large. Han Fei didn't go to see the village leader and Wang Jie immediately. Instead, he invited Luo Xiaobai and the others to have hot pot in the marshal's mansion. However, only the 4 of them were going to have hot pot this time. Even Jiuyin Ling wasn't included. "Fatty, I just want to know, what have you been doing these years? Have you become a chef?" Han Fei looked at the fancy and innovative dishes on the table. Suddenly, he was a little surprised. They looked fucking delicious. Lu Renquang immediately shook the fat on his face and said, "You may not believe it, but I was caught by a strange old man. I only did 2 things every day, eat and sleep and eat. I had to figure it out myself. After thinking about it, I found that cooking was actually quite simple." Zhang Xuanyu rolled his eyes and said, "I don't believe you. I was the one who was pitiful. I suddenly had a pair of parents-in-law, as well as a crafty old servant. They are thinking of ways to destroy me every day." As he spoke, Zhang Xuanyu suddenly looked at Han Fei. "Fei, tell me honestly, where did Yi Xian go? Don't let her come back. Otherwise, within a year, the 3 of you will definitely come to my wedding." Luo Xiaobai picked up a piece of squid, stuffed it into her mouth, and said indifferently, "Isn't that what you want?" Yan Yan's appearance is stunning. After 7 or 8 years, she has already grown into a young lady. Zhang Xuanyu was taken aback by Luo Xiaobai's words. He immediately touched his chin and said, "Hey, what you said is not without reason. In my impression, Yi Xian has always been that naughty little girl." Hearing Zhang Xuanyu's bragging, Han Fei reached out and pinched Zhang Xuanyu's shoulder. Zhang Xuanyu shouted, "Ouch, ouch, it hurts. Don't you know how strong you are now?" Han Fei asked in confusion, "How did your body become so strong?" "You have cultivated the 108 desolate god body." Han Fei had watched Zhang Xuanyu grow up since he was a child. In the past, he was a little conservative and didn't give the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies to Zhang Xuanyu and the others. Later, he regretted it, but he missed the best time and it seemed a little too late. However, the more he thought about it, the longer it was. The longer it was, the more difficult it would be to cultivate. Zhang Xuanyu suddenly became strange. Then we have to talk about the old servant of the Yi family. In the past 7 years, he broke my bones 7 times. Every time, he was extremely cruel, and his methods were unbearable to look at. Crush all the bones in my body, then soak them in great medicine. Then every time I shatter my bones, I'll cultivate your 108 desolate god body. Now, all that's left is to unite the 8 acupoints. Han Fei remembered that after experiencing the ideal palace and coming out of the ideal palace, Zhang Xuanyu was beaten black and blue. At that time, he had handed over the 108 desolate god body. Han Fei of the 108 desolate body refining, he of body. Fei said. Xiao Yang Li of the of Chang of Li. Lu Renquang quickly said, "Fortunately, I don't practice body tempering. As long as I can still eat, my physique will become stronger." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Demonic plants have always been tough. I have awakened the divine skill of the Luo family and have the blessing of the Dao seed, so my physique is not weak." Seeing that the other party was more relaxed than him, Zhang Xuanyu said with a sad face, "According to that old servant, I still have to have my bones broken twice." Han Fei couldn't help patting Zhang Xuanyu's shoulder. "Remember, the effect will definitely be different when you have the desolate god body." Suddenly, Han Fei patted his head and waved his hand, and more than 300 energy fruits appeared. Then, he quickly classified these energy fruits. In the end, he handed them to the 3 of them. Gulp. Lu Renquang immediately swallowed and said, "They look delicious." Smith. Han Fei slapped him. "You only know how to eat. You eat everything? These are all ultra-quality spiritual fruits. Any one of them is priceless outside. Don't eat all of them before you pass the tribulation." Luo Xiaobai exclaimed in surprise. "Are you giving us these energy fruits for us to pass the tribulation?" Han Fei nodded. "These spiritual fruits are mostly ultra-quality spiritual fruits that can nourish the flesh and blood, stimulate the body's potential, and strengthen the physique. Even with your current strength, taking one will be of great benefit." Zhang Xuanyu took it without hesitation and asked, With this, I don't need to break my bones, right? Han Fei glanced at Zhang Xuanyu contemptuously, thinking, it's just breaking your bones a few times. If I let you cultivate the indestructible body, what will you do? Looking at Han Fei's eyes, Zhang Xuanyu shrugged. There are still 2 more times. I'll just endure it. Luo Xiaobai said, in the past few years, you have crossed a major realm. Now you have the power to kill a venerable. Are you about to become a venerable? Hearing Luo Xiaobai's question, they all looked at Han Fei. Han Fei's growth was really too fast, so fast that it was unbelievable. They guessed that Han Fei must have passed the tribulation now. However, they didn't expect that Han Fei could already kill a venerable. Han Fei took a bite of the grilled fish and chuckled. Are you jealous? I have long said that I am talented and will become a king. They all glanced at Han Fei contemptuously, and Luo Xiaobai said, we are still too slow after all. You have just ruled the Scattered Stars Island this time. Since you have completely declared war on the 1,000-star city, the 36 towns will be your territory. Your road is not easy. Luo Xiaobai's straightforward personality hadn't changed. At first glance, she focused on the situation in front of Han Fei. Zhang Xuanyu also said, compared with my 2 broken bones, I think although you are strong now, you are in big trouble. Lu Renkuang took a bite of lobster meat and nodded repeatedly. You are the only one who has to bear the burden. Han Fei grinned and said grumpily, what are you talking about? Let me tell you, your vision has limited your thinking. Do you think I am having a hard time now? When you become a real strong master, when you become a venerable, you will find that this so-called difficult is actually not difficult. All of you are unable to imagine just how strong a person's strength can be. The 3 of them looked at Han Fei, who was a little crazy. How could they not be familiar with Han Fei? Seeing Han Fei like this, they knew he was excited. This meant that what Han Fei said was what he was thinking. In his opinion, the burden and pressure on him were not very big. Lu Renkuang asked dumbly, then how strong can a person be? Han Fei's eyes narrowed into a line. There were some secrets that he didn't need to hide from the 3 of them. If he told them, it would let them know that there were infinite pursuits in this world. Han Fei said, the world we are in is called the Yin-Yang Heaven. It stretches for 8 million kilometers and is sealed here by a huge seal. That seal is called the Wall of Death. In an instant, the eyes of the 3 of them lit up and their hearts trembled. These were all secrets they had never heard of. In their impression, outside the distant sea, wasn't it the boundless sea? Han Fei said, in the Yin-Yang Heaven, there is a sacred place called the Immortal Palace. Since ancient times, a king can rule a territory. In this endless sea, there are a total of 36 territories like the Yin-Yang Heaven. Lu Renkuang spat out the grilled fish in his mouth and looked at Han Fei in astonishment. Han Fei said seriously, you heard me right. There were 36 such places. There might be more than 1 king at each location. Luo Xiaobai asked, what about the kings of the Yin-Yang Heaven? Han Fei smiled and said, do you remember the pair of eyes we saw in the star bead? You should know the name of that thing, the Eye of the Great Path. That thing restricts the birth of kings of the Yin-Yang Heaven. So, if you want to become a king, you have to go to the outer domain or the Immortal Palace. Zhang Xuanyu said, the place above the central divine throne of the 1,000-star city? Han Fei said, although this has always been the speculation of the big clans, this speculation is very likely to be true. Not everyone can go to the Immortal Palace. It's just like not everyone has great luck. My father, you know, has been planning for many years, but he can't control me. But now even I believe that I will be the king of the 1,000-star city. Han Fei spread his hands. In the eyes of outsiders, the Yin-Yang Heaven is a barren land. We are no different from the natives. There are hundreds of venerables there. On our side, there are only a few dozen venerables. Now, do you still think I'm under a lot of pressure? After a while, when Han Fei revealed some less important information, the 3 of them were shocked by Han Fei. Luo Xiaobai was the first to come back to her senses. Have you been to other territories? How many kings are there? Han Fei's tribulation in the Waterwood Heaven was a secret. In the eyes of Luo Xiaobai and the others, it was not a secret. Han Fei didn't hide it and said lightly, 300 of venerables. Zhang Xuanyu cursed, son of a bitch. Okay, that's enough. After this meal, I'm going to Bone Crusher. Go where you should go. See you in the future. Luo Xiaobai took a breath. I've been cultivating in the Thousand Star City for a long time, and I'm going to the Scattered Stars Island to gain more experience. Now that humans have won a great victory, I should be able to go to the outer sea. Slurp. Lu Renquang said, I'm going back to transcend a tribulation. Second update. Wedding rehearsal, delayed. Awkward mama. End of this chapter. Chapter 1455. The Luo Xiaobai trio each had their own opportunities. In just 7 years, everyone had reached the threshold of the tribulation. This speed was actually not slow. However, compared with Han Fei's abnormal speed, it was naturally far inferior. However, according to Han Fei's estimation, the three of them might need some time to polish their foundation. But it might not necessarily be difficult for them to find a great way. After all, the paths they were taking now had their own characteristics. Even Lu Renquang clearly knew what path he was taking and was very firm on it. Luo Xiaobai was so smart that she definitely knew what path he was taking. As for Zhang Xuanyu, he might have already vaguely determined his own path when he was still a fishing master. After eating for more than an hour, he heard Han Fei and Zhang Xuanyu bragging over there. Zhang Xuanyu said, Fei, you won't believe me. My current spear fighting technique can be said to have reached the pinnacle. With one spear strike, I can tear the void and kill explorers. Han Fei thought to himself, I've long been proficient in knocking on the gate of heaven. Why are you still showing off in front of me? So Han Fei couldn't help but say sympathetically, isn't your spiritual power very strong? Why don't you use your spiritual power to knock on the gate of heaven? Han Fei faintly taught him the technique of the soul stun stab, and Zhang Xuanyu waved his hand. I tried, so I got a new technique that can stab the soul. Not only that, I also put the soul explosion technique on the tip of the spear and got the soul stab technique. In that scene, the enemy was already dead before I arrived and the spear moved. Han Fei was speechless and thought to himself, that's right. Zhang Xuanyu made a living with this technique from the beginning to the end. Zhang Xuanyu chuckled, bumped Han Fei with his shoulder, and whispered, Fei, I heard that you made an ultra-quality divine weapon and stopped the fierce battle between the venerables of the outer sea? Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Fuck, old man I even told you this? Don't think about it yet. Wait for it to be nourished for more than 10 years before plucking it. It's best to seal a legendary creature with a spirit, which has a certain chance of being promoted to a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. This was the first time Han Fei had forged an ultra-quality divine weapon, so he was quite cautious and set up various arrays around it. It was extremely difficult. If a venerable wanted to take action, it would depend on whether or not they had the guts to come to the Scattered Stars Island. Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed when he heard, sea-quelling bizarre treasure. What? You can forge sea-quelling bizarre treasures now? Han Fei rolled his eyes. Bullshit. I say it's possible, but the probability is very low, not high. After all, there's a huge amount of Martial Highness power left in the battlefield, and I'm using the Martial Highness power to nurture it. Zhang Xuanyu grinned. Phew, I don't mind. Let it sit there for a few years. After chatting with Zhang Xuanyu, Lu Renquang leaned in and said, Fei, you've been there for so long, did you create any special creatures? How's the texture? Inspired by Han Fei, everyone had the habit of collecting ingredients. Han Fei's lips twitched. I'm here to gain experience, not to look for food. In terms of the species of marine creatures in the two places, there was actually not much difference. I'll share something fresh with you. With that said, Han Fei controlled a fiery python and a fire immortal fish with an array. These were all creatures hunted near the Blood Sea Divine Wood City, and the weakest was at the Tao-seeking state. Lu Renquang immediately rubbed his hands and laughed. I knew you wouldn't return empty-handed. During the whole process, Luo Xiaobai didn't speak much. After the meal, Luo Xiaobai said, Han Fei, if you want to go to the Thousand Star City again, be careful. Now, the big families have completely lost control of the 36 towns and the scattered stars island, and the Thousand-Star City is their last fortress. Han Fei asked, "Is the Luo family really fine?" Luo Xiaobai shook her head slightly. "The divine skills of the Luo family are extraordinary. The big families won't attack the Luo family. Besides, the Luo family is now on the same side as the 7 major sections. We'll help each other out, so we're fine for the time being." Suddenly, Luo Xiaobai seemed to remember something. She said, "Han Fei, I have a piece of news. I wonder if it will help you?" Han Fei asked, "What is it?" Luo Xiaobai explained, "That was 5 years ago. The elders of the family have seen many strong masters of the Chu sect enter the Thousand-Star Proving Ground through parasitic spiritual plants. When they came out, 3 of them were missing." Han Fei's eyelids twitched. "How strong were they?" Luo Xiaobai replied, "The Venerable Realm." The next morning, Luo Xiaobai and the others had already left, but Han Fei couldn't leave the Scattered Stars Island for the time being. Early in the morning, the Sea God Square was already crowded with people, although the post-war work was still in full swing. However, General Han had said that the sea demons had been defeated, so they naturally didn't want to stay in their posts. After all, on the first day of victory, the mood of the people on the Scattered Stars Island began to improve. Although many had fallen, their sacrifice was still valuable. Yesterday, although Han Fei's Apocalypse divine skill was infinite, it also consumed a lot of energy. Fortunately, Han Fei could use the Apocalypse Great Path. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to heal so many people. However, the benefits of healing were also generous. The power of faith surged, and the hundreds of thousands of people almost became Han Fei's die-hard fans. When Han Fei stepped into the air and appeared in front of everyone. Someone shouted, "He's here! General Han is here!" Everyone stood still and began to shout, "General Han! General Han! General Han!" Han Fei proudly took out the sky-hanging mirror, and the sky curtain opened with a swish. Seeing this, Xue Shenqi in the transverse mountain was speechless. When the sky-hanging mirror was in my hands, it was only used to mobilize people in wartime. What did you use it for? But now, Han Fei couldn't wait to use the sky-hanging mirror on himself every day so that millions of people could see his appearance. Xue Shenqi obviously didn't understand what a star effect or the influence of a hero was. When Han Fei's portrait appeared, the cheers were like waves in the sky, rising and falling, rolling non-stop. If Han Fei sang a song at this time, he would really become a national idol. While feeling the influx of the power of will, Han Fei flew into the air and greeted the millions of soldiers. "Soldiers, comrades, I, Han Fei, am honored to fight with you on the battlefield, feasting on the flesh of sea demons and thirsting for the blood of the Venerable. We have fought an unprecedented victory and fought for the future of the human race. Roar, we are honored to fight with General Han on the battlefield." In the sky curtain, Han Fei grinned. "Comrades, we humans have won a complete victory in this battle. The number of sea demons killed in this battle is as many as 1,000,000. There are countless sea spirit and Tao-seeking great demons, thousands of them. There are also as many as 10 venerables. In fact, there were several sea demon venerables, and most of them were just the projections of the Black Killer Snail King. But even so, this was still a great victory. If they didn't eradicate the enemy this time, they would appear again next time." Han Fei smiled and said, "Everyone, the battle has been decided. From today on, the Scattered Stars Island is liberated." Liberated? Liberated? Someone was dumbfounded. "What do you mean?" Someone was confused. "What do you mean?" Before the crowd guessed, Han Fei shouted, "Everyone, the heavenly Tao is heartless and treats all things as fish. The Sea Clan invaded and the human race fought for tens of thousands of years. How many people had broken up their families and broken up their families? How many people stayed on the Scattered Stars Island, guarding all living beings in obscurity? However, as long as the human race is not destroyed, we have to live until the end of time. In any era, we must be unyielding and never bow our heads. Nothing in the world can destroy the human race, not even heaven and earth." Han Fei's voice was agitated, and he repeated what he said when he entered the City of Justice. God knew whether this was his wish or Shimin Linglan's. As soon as he said that, the people present numbered in the millions. Their chi and blood surged, and their voices were thunderous as they shouted madly. Some even had tears in their eyes, crying and laughing. This is the human race. Nothing in the world can destroy us. Countless people looked up at the sky curtain and looked at Han Fei's agitated voice. Jiao Ling's eyes were infatuated. He Xiaoyu stood next to her father of the sightseeing group from the 36 towns with a complicated look. The village chief and Li Gang's bodies trembled. Their minds were filled with things like, "A big shot has appeared in our village, our gang leader is very powerful." In the crowd, Lin Wu shouted with a group of people. She thought to herself, if my senior brother is so powerful, how powerful is our teacher? Wait, Lin Wu remembered, senior brother seems to be from the Thug Academy. Then, is teacher also from the Thug Academy? In the sky, Han Fei spread his hands. From today on, I announce that the central city will be merged with the 4 outer cities. From now on, there will only be one city on the Scattered Stars Island, named the City of Justice. Before the million soldiers had any questions, before Xue Shenqi asked, Han Fei immediately added, in the future, the City of Justice will accept cultivators from the ordinary people of the 36 towns and the 1,000-star city who come to seek opportunities. At the same time, the City of Justice will build a teleportation hall to the 36 towns. What I want is that anyone can come as long as they want. Anyone can go as long as they want. From now on, the City of Justice will become a paradise for adventurers. For a moment, many people were stunned. Han Fei's decision was too fucking bold. In fact, this was also a good way for Han Fei to harvest the power of hope frequently after thinking hard all night. Building a city can't be done in a day or two. I can harvest the power of hope for a long time in the future. The million soldiers on the Scattered Stars Island were not stupid. Once the Scattered Stars Island became a place where everyone could come and go, it meant that the current system of the Scattered Stars Island was going to be changed. It also meant that there was no need to limit the strength of the people who came to the Scattered Stars Island, and all this was based on one thing. The sea demons were really defeated and didn't dare to come again. The City of Justice, the City of Justice. I support General Han. The City of Justice is everyone's city, not just ours. Han Fei suddenly said, everyone, a new reform has begun. Our human race is going to rise. We are going to become the strongest in this world. I, Han Fei, hope that everyone on this island can become a hidden fisher. I will work hard for this. At this moment, almost everyone was stirred up by Han Fei, attracted by the perfect world described by Han Fei, and their eyes were full of longing. First update, asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1456. The City of Justice? Inside the cloud whale, Tang Yen muttered it several times. However, he didn't care too much. Han Fei had good leadership skills and was also belligerent. In this battle, defeating the sea demons was a real achievement. Besides, after several battles, Han Fei's strength almost soared. Tang Yen was very clear about Han Fei's needs. When people didn't know about the power of hope, they all felt that spiritual energy cultivation was the best choice. When they learned about the power of hope, they knew that this kind of cultivation was 10 times, even dozens of times, or even hundreds of times faster than spiritual energy cultivation. Tang Yen could understand that Han Fei was not weak. Once he became a venerable, ordinary venerables would be no match for him. Xue Shenqi and Tang Yen had different opinions. He always felt that Han Fei was greedy. Although he knew that Han Fei's purpose was to collect the power of hope, if he collected it every day, no matter how fast the leaks grew, it wouldn't be enough for him. But Han Fei was too powerful at this moment. In the sky, his voice was rolling. Everyone, now there are as many as 3 million sea demons in the outer sea. Is this a lot? Han Fei shouted, not a lot. Let me tell you, it's not a lot at all. In the next year, the The City of Justice will reclaim the sea and expand the Scattered Stars Island by another 1,000 kilometers. 30,000 kilometers of the outer sea will be opened for cultivation. What I want is for every one of you to be a dragon. Roar. In Han Fei's crazy and stirring voice, the millions of soldiers were also fooled. Who cares? Anyway, General Han killed a lot of enemies and ushered in a great victory for mankind. What General Han said was right. And after the exciting speech, Han Fei also said, "From today on, the soldiers of the Scattered Stars Island will implement the principle of voluntariness. You can withdraw from the army, return to the 36 towns, or stay on the island to explore alone. This place will become a paradise for cultivators." Their revolution was not something that could be accomplished in a day. A month later, in the 36 arrays, a total of 520 mission halls were built. The mission mode of the City of Justice was once again popular in the human world. In the first few days, the mayors, village chiefs, headmasters, teachers, clan leaders, sect masters, and other leaders of the various villages and towns began to mobilize everyone the moment they returned home. To them, witnessing the crazy war in the City of Justice and the victory of the human race was like witnessing a legendary epic. Especially under Han Fei's instigation, they all clearly felt a problem in their hearts. The City of Justice would become the gathering place of the strongest human beings. It would be a place where it would be easier for him to grow and get opportunities than in the Level 3 fishery. Of course, this was only what they felt. Their first priority was to publicize the existence of the City of Justice. Although hundreds of thousands of soldiers from the unknown lands had returned and described what the unknown lands looked like, it was still not enough. However, no matter what, it was not as straightforward as everyone going to see it in person. Those who returned to their hometown in advance, on the other hand, were all frustrated after hearing the news that the Scattered Stars Island defeated the sea demons and destroyed the 10,000 Demon Valley. Someone shouted, "I fucking knew that coming back in advance was definitely not a good thing. Look, this unprecedented victory is only a few days away from me. How hateful." Some of his companions who had gathered together sneered, "Dream on. 10 venerables have died. That's 10 fucking venerables. I've stayed on the Scattered Stars Island for so long, but I haven't seen any of them. It's not hard to imagine how many people died in this battle. You're a cripple. You'll definitely be beaten to death." The man immediately stretched his neck. "Beaten to death? What's wrong? Do you think I'm scared? Didn't you see me when I killed the sea demons with my bare hands?" Similar situations could be found everywhere. Cloud Soaring Town, Cloud Soaring Academy. Yu Lingyun had been stunned for a month. She had only been back for a few days, and the battle was over. "Sister Lingyun." Wu Xiaoxiao walked close and held Yu Lingyun's arm. "Sister Lingyun, the captain has won anyway. The Scattered Stars Island has been liberated and built into a City of Justice. We don't have to fight anymore." Yu Lingyun slightly shook her head. "No, this is just the first victory for the Scattered Stars Island. The sea demon venerables haven't been eliminated yet. There are still 3 million sea demons wandering in the vast ocean. Chances are that they will ambush human beings." Wu Xiaoxiao said, "How is that possible? They've lost their courage after being beaten by the captain. How dare they invade the City of Justice again? If they piss off the captain, their entire clan will be annihilated." Yu Lingyun took a deep breath. "Xiaoxiao, this place is not suitable for me. I'm going to fight the ocean. I'm going back. The City of Justice is in dire need of manpower. Xiaoxiao, don't underestimate yourself. As long as you work hard, you can become a law enforcer or even pass a tribulation." Wu Xiaoxiao was stunned. Could she really do that in the City of Justice? In the quest hall of the 36 towns, missions had been tried out. However, it was different from the quest hall of the Scattered Stars Island. Most of the missions in the quest hall here were relatively simple. For example, hunting swordfish in the Level 1 fishery, searching for spirit-chasing shrimp in the Level 2 fishery, collecting sea bamboo trees, and so on were usually not very dangerous. The Level 3 fishery, on the other hand, had abundant resources, but not many people accepted the missions. Because at the beginning, many people yearned for the City of Justice and took teleportation arrays to go there. The ticket to the City of Justice was not expensive. It only cost one high-quality pearl. One high-quality pearl was enough to see the legendary unknown place. How cheap was that? However, as a result, the City of Justice was almost overcrowded. In the sky, many people raised their heads and looked up. It was because a gigantic turtle was flying to the edge of the Scattered Stars Island with a tremendous amount of sand, stones, and soil on its shoulder. Someone was surprised. "What turtle is that? Isn't it too big?" Someone laughed. "What's the fuss about? That's a star turtle." General Han said that it's the guardian of the City of Justice. It's now carrying soil and stones to fill the sea. A newcomer exclaimed, "What? Is the Venerable used to carry sand and stones?" The person who was asked was also stunned. He didn't know. However, he casually made up a story. Who knows? The Venerable may be too bored. Think about it. He's already so strong. If he goes one step further, he'll become a king. Construction was still going on everywhere, but the pace of recruitment never stopped. People were raising signs and shouting everywhere. "The Dangling Guild is recruiting. If you want to go to sea and see the magic of the unknown place, you must come to the Dangling Guild. The Pioneer Regiment sincerely invites strong masters to join us. Don't miss it. Our regiment is escorted by hidden fishers. If you want resources, no one can get them faster than our Pioneer Regiment. The Trans-Island Inspection Team is recruiting. The treatment is generous. It's a rare opportunity for ordinary people to manage the City of Justice. You need to be stronger than a hanging fisher to apply. The Logistics Division is recruiting. Do you want to see the abundant resources of the unknown place? Then come to the Logistics Division. We have all the good things you want." In the City of Justice, there were 3 giant mission halls. Next to each hall, there was a trading house, which was a bundled building for people to quickly obtain the resources they wanted. Since the appearance of the mission hall and the trading house, they had always been full of people. Now, they were urgently expanding and preparing to build 3 more. There was a hubbub here. Next door, the trading house was conducting an equivalent exchange. Dragon's tongue for green spirit fruit, 1-to-1, and the service fee is half. "I'll do it." Someone waved his hand, took out his sea-swallowing seashell, grabbed the green spirit fruit, and rushed to the counter. A damaged semi-divine weapon for 10 spiritual fruits of any kind. "Anyone want to trade?" A refiner's eyes immediately lit up. "Come on, I'll trade with you." Someone shouted, "I'll give you 11. Fuck, first come, first served, don't you understand? It was noisy here, and the people next door were not much better. Every time a sign was put up, it was almost sold out on the spot. But some missions were different. For example, a staff member shouted, "General Han said that we need to get rid of marine creatures in order to reclaim the city. 10 king worms can be exchanged for a caddy of spiritual spring. 100 king worms can be exchanged for a caddy of spirit awakening fluid. Each person can only get one." This staff member had already been surrounded by many people. A large group of people held up star tokens. Let me go first." "Shit, don't jump the line." At this moment, someone rushed through the crowd. "Get out of the way, I've hunted 100 king worms and come to get the spirit awakening fluid. This is the receipt of the Logistics Division." When the man left happily with a caddy of spirit awakening fluid, the rest of the people were even more excited and almost pushed the staff out. While the construction of the Scattered Stars Island was in full swing, Han Fei was leading many people to a meeting in the Scattered Stars 6th Unit. At this moment, a group of people was quarreling. Someone said, "This method of currency is used in the world. Compared to the pearls of today, it is slightly different. But if it's dual currency, people will definitely trust pearls." Someone said, "The 36 towns can't use it for the time being. People don't trust us yet. Many people regard money as treasures and can't give it up. It's hard." Someone sneered. "It can be used in the City of Justice, right? We don't need to spread it to the 1,000-star city and the 36 towns at the beginning. As long as it can be popularized in the City of Justice, It will eventually spread out. Someone said, "Now, I'm afraid it's not the right time. Once the Zhang family uses pearl currency to disrupt the market, how can we deal with it?" Han Fei was confused and immediately said, "Be quiet, be quiet." When everyone quieted down, Han Fei said, "This matter needs to be dealt with slowly. Whether it's pearls or the new coins, they will have a far-reaching impact. Now, the City of Justice will adopt the new coins. It's decided. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. In the past few months, Han Fei was really busy. The City of Justice was built by him, so he had to be responsible for it. And in the past 3 months, Han Fei's power of hope had condensed into a milky white flame-shaped ball in his body. It should be because he had accumulated too much power of hope. Han Fei knew that it was time to reach the peak of the semi-venerable realm. Without absolute strength, the City of Justice was nothing but an illusion. Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1457. It had been 3 months since he became a semi-venerable, but in fact, half a year had passed in Forge the Universe. In the past 6 months, Han Fei had been nourishing himself with a small amount of wish power every day. Because the gap from the peak of Dao seeking to a semi-venerable was actually not very big, it was just a difference in understanding of the Great Way. Therefore, Han Fei could temporarily push himself to be the strongest. The Scattered Stars Island was already on the right track, and what was missing was time. Because it was a brand new pattern created by Han Fei, there were actually a lot of people trying it. Among them, except for the 36 towns, the disciples of the 7 major sects began to enter the Scattered Stars Island on a large scale. The open environment of the City of Justice was too suitable for everyone to grow up. As long as you had the strength and courage to travel in the sea, there was no reason not to grow up. On the contrary, the big clans of the Thousand-Star City were not so lucky. When the City of Justice recruited people, the citizens spontaneously began to be hostile to the disciples of the big clans of the Thousand-Star City. It could be said that except for some special families, no disciples of the big clans came to the Scattered Stars Island. Of course, even so, countless people came to the Thousand-Star City. Unlike before, if people from the Scattered Stars Island wanted to go to the Thousand-Star City, they had to take the Sky Ladder. Now, if people from the Thousand-Star City wanted to go to the Scattered Stars Island, they had to be interrogated. In front of the teleportation array, a large array appeared, and all those who came from the Thousand-Star City had to enter the array to be interrogated. In this way, a large number of spies sent by the big clans had been discovered. These people were all repatriated. Han Fei was very satisfied with the current situation. Because Xue Shenqi was too familiar with the affairs of the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei specially invited Xue Shenqi to serve as the defense officer of the City of Justice. Today, after being dragged out for a day of meetings, Han Fei realized that the current City of Justice was very similar to the City of Justice in history. He deeply knew that in the development of such a city, the position of the City Lord was actually symbolic. Since he announced the establishment of the City of Justice, although he might have become more famous, the collection of wish power had slowed down. In the past 6 months of cultivation, the consumption of wish power was even slightly greater than the harvest. Han Fei knew that the City of Justice needed to return to the natural development of a city. The laws and restrictions of the higher-ups had worked, and now it was up to these adventurers. The General's Mansion. With a thought, Han Fei scanned the new Empyrean waterfall, which was built by the Star Tortoise. At this moment, the Star Tortoise had occupied a piece of land in the Empyrean waterfall. The tortoise must have been depressed for a long time, so it sneaked into the crowd to have fun during the day. "Senior Star Turtle, why don't you pay a visit to my residence?" The Star Tortoise, who was tasting the Liehua liquor, frowned. "What's up?" "Nothing. I just want to arrange a position for you and help you experience the pleasure of being a tortoise." The Star Tortoise was puzzled. He wasn't an idiot, so if the highest commander invited him, it definitely wouldn't be anything good. If it weren't for the fact that it had been used to the Scattered Stars Island and found the Scattered Stars Island's reform interesting, it might have slipped away. Han Fei sneered. "Do you think I can eat you? If I tell you to come, then come." Your strength is a whole realm lower than mine. What's there to worry about? The star tortoise really wanted to roll its eyes. An entire realm higher than you? Are you kidding me? You've killed more than a dozen venerables. How can I not be worried? Han Fei ignored it and shouted, "Little Nine, come to the general's mansion." Joeen Ling was tempering her body. She had been preparing for the tribulation in the past few months. Hearing Han Fei's call, she was overjoyed and went straight to the residence. A moment later, in the residence, what? Pretend to be the highest commander? I can't do that. I can only be a tortoise, not the highest commander. Go to Shueishenqi. The star tortoise turned around and was about to leave, but Han Fei's words scared it out of its wits. Han Fei wanted it to pretend to be the highest commander? Didn't he know that 80% of the previous highest commanders died in battle, and only 10% died of old age? Joeen Ling also looked at Han Fei in surprise, wondering where he was going this time. Joeen Ling had been alone with Han Fei for a few years and knew him very well. Han Fei was an impatient person. Now that Han Fei was going to give up the position of the Supreme Commander for the time being, it meant that Han Fei had something to do. Joeen Ling seemed to have guessed something. Han Fei was probably not interested in the sea outside the Scattered Stars Island. Although there was still the Sea Monster Army and the Sea Monster Venerable outside. However, the Star Tortoise had already broken through, and the Sea Demons had lost more than half of their strength. No matter how courageous they were, they wouldn't dare to invade. With Han Fei's strength, it was meaningless to find trouble with these sea monsters. It wouldn't help Han Fei become a venerable. Although Joeen Ling didn't know what level one had to reach to become a venerable one, it wasn't something that could be achieved overnight. He had never heard of anyone becoming a venerable just because they liked to fight. Therefore, there was only one place Han Fei could go, and that was the Thousand Star City. 3:15 Chinese net. Han Fei immediately said solemnly, "Senior Star Turtle, I guess you know something about the secrets of this sea. You have nowhere to go. There's the Sea Demon Venerable outside, there's no place for you. You can't go any further. If you still don't help me on the Scattered Stars Island, there will be no place for you in this vast ocean. Don't forget who protected you 3 months ago." The Star Turtle paused and looked back in embarrassment. Then why do I have to pretend to be the Supreme Commander? Han Fei smiled. You are the one who has the closest contact with the previous Supreme Commanders on the Scattered Stars Island. You know how to be a commander. I don't need you to pretend to be the Supreme Commander for long. Just wait for me to come back. The Star Turtle rolled his eyes. How long will you be gone? Han Fei replied, a few months at best, a year at worst. It won't be long. In Han Fei's mind, time was very slow. A year was a long time. He wouldn't be gone for long. He was only going to become a venerable one and crack some secrets. How long could it take? The Star Turtle pondered for a long time. I'll pretend to be you for a year at most. If you don't come back, I'll go to Shueishenqi. Han Fei grinned. No problem. Okay, I'll teach you a great technique called the art of deception. It's your reward. Throwing a jade slip to the Star Turtle, Han Fei waved his hand and took Joeen Ling 1,000 kilometers away. In the Transverse Mountain, Han Fei said, Xiao Jiao, I need you to do something for me. However, Joeen Ling asked, are you going to the Thousand Star City? Han Fei was briefly stunned. How do you know? Joeen Ling immediately gasped. Do you know that the Thousand Star City is a huge mudflat right now? Everyone is waiting for you, but you're jumping into it yourself? Joeen Ling had always been a gentle girl, but at this moment, even she couldn't help but lose her temper. She didn't know why Han Fei was so urgent. She seemed to realize that her tone was too harsh. Joeen Ling finally calmed herself down and said slowly, why? Seeing her solemnity, Han Fei said, you can't become a king too slowly. The timing is a little secret that you don't know. I have a feeling that our world is about to break free from the cage, and the black killer snail may make a comeback. He wouldn't be at the half-king realm any longer, and he would be a true king, an existence that could crush 1,000 stars and sweep through all invincible existences. Seeing that Han Fei was so serious, Joeen Ling looked at him for a moment and sighed. But I feel that you're always busy. Maybe the years in the wind and rain village were the happiest years of my life. Without saying anything, Zhou Ling raised her head and asked, "What do you need me to do?" In fact, Han Fei's feelings for Zhou Ling had never exceeded the limit. He just regarded her as a friend like Luo Xiaobai and the others. Han Fei changed the topic. "Go to the Blue Sea town and call old Jiang for me. I've given him a piece of land on the Scattered Stars Island. It's very valuable." 3 days passed. In Forge the Universe, Han Fei sat cross-legged on the ground, enshrouded in a blue and white mist. In his mind, the little squares were uncovered one after another and were memorized. Crack, crack, crack. The 1000th. Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes, opened his mouth, and took a deep breath. Something flashed, and a picture of clothes appeared in front of his eyes. In this picture, a person was approaching from far away, from small to large, as if from 1,000 kilometers away. Someone was stabbing at him with a spear light. This spear light pierced the center of his eyebrows, and Han Fei was really stunned. Almost at that moment, Han Fei felt that he was in an illusory world, standing proudly above the void. There was a vague and invisible figure, who reached out and stabbed the center of his eyebrows with a spear light. The spear light shattered the void for 1,000 kilometers, as if the tip of the spear had pierced his heart. At that moment, Han Fei felt that the center of his eyebrows was about to explode. He didn't even have a chance to dodge and was stabbed by the spear. At this moment, the God-scaring painting was completed. Han Fei completely forgot about the soul-stunning spike at this moment. In his eyes, there was a strange light. In his eyes, it was all this terrifying attack. The power of the spear could kill the soul regardless of distance. Chapter 1458. Although that thought was illusory and didn't exist at all. But the moment the spear light stretched out, Han Fei felt that he had been defeated. The other party was too fast for him to keep up with. Of course, although he was defeated, it didn't mean that the demon purification pot would be defeated. However, every time he felt that he was invincible in the same realm, a new power would always appear and defeat him, telling him that he was not the strongest. He was stunned for about half an hour. Han Fei closed his eyes and a piece of information appeared in his mind. God-killing spike, venerable level, divine quality, introduction. This is a God-killing treasure technique. All the spear techniques in the world belong to a wisp of the soul of the spear. If the spear has a soul, it can destroy gods and demons, break time and space, and nothing can stop it. If you want to use the God-killing spike, you must first refine the soul of the spear. When the spear is launched, it can pierce through time, space, and light. However, there is one shortcoming and it may be broken. Deduced art, unknown deduction consumption, 10 wisps of chaos energy drawback. This technique can't be mastered in a day. God-killing treasure technique? When Han Fei saw this spear light, he knew that this technique was not simple. At his current level, it was very difficult for him to find a technique that he couldn't resist at all. And this God-killing spike was one of them. After quickly browsing through the God-killing spike, Han Fei immediately smiled bitterly. This technique was still too difficult. He had only learned a little about piercing through time, which was Zhang Xuanyu's exclusive skill. But if he worked hard, he should be able to learn momentary time. As for piercing through the void, it didn't seem difficult, but it was very difficult to hit 1,000 kilometers away. However, if he only pierced through 100 kilometers, it wouldn't be a problem. He could complete the first two, but why did he have to pierce through light for the last one? Han Fei definitely wouldn't think that it was as simple as blocking light. After reading the detailed cultivation method, Han Fei was speechless. This required a spear light that could swallow light. Gulp. Han Fei swallowed and said helplessly, "It's too difficult. This is too fucking difficult." "Are you okay?" The old turtle noticed Han Fei's confusion and knew that Han Fei had woken up from his cultivation, but he seemed to have been slapped by someone. Was there a problem? Han Fei quickly came back to himself. "Oh, I'm fine, I'm fine." The god-slaying stab couldn't be mastered in a day or two. But the god-scaring painting had been completed, and this perception break had almost sent his perception ability to the peak. Han Fei glanced at his personal information, and his eyelids slightly twitched. Although his spiritual power didn't increase, his perception range increased from 8,000 kilometers to 9,999 kilometers. That was because the bottleneck had been locked. Unless he made a breakthrough, he couldn't improve it anymore. After leaving the Scattered Stars Island for 3 days, Han Fei felt that he had reached the limits of the demi-venerable level. Originally, apart from the Great Tao, the comprehensive strength of a demi-venerable and a peak-level explorer was about the same. However, it was precisely this Great Tao power that was the key to success or failure. Han Fei looked up. Old Yuan, once I go, I will become a venerable. I have different thoughts from Old Han. If there is a chance in the future, I can take away a part of your memory and release you. Therefore, during this trip, if you reach a critical moment, you must not slack off. The old turtle rolled his eyes and thought to himself, do you think you can let me go? Even if you dare to say it, I don't dare to believe it. The old turtle said leisurely, I'm too weak. I'm not much stronger than you now. Even if I use the chaotic energy, I won't be much stronger than you. Han Fei sneered. What I need is not your strength, but your insight, Thousand Star City. Recently, prices had soared in the Thousand Star City, mainly because there were no more things transported back from the Scattered Stars Island and the Level 3 fishery. Once these two resource giants were gone, a large number of resources in the Thousand Star City were no longer supplied. When the major distributors ran out of stock, the market changed from a buyer's market to a seller's market. As long as there was something suitable, the price could be set high. After all, there was no need to be afraid that no one would buy it. In the Thousand Star City, there were plenty of rich people. It was unknown who spread the news of the City of Justice to the Thousand Star City. Immediately, all kinds of gossip flew all over the sky, and soon swept through the entire Thousand Star City like a tsunami. For a moment, countless people wanted to go to the lower world, to the City of Justice, and to the Scattered Stars Island. However, the teleportation array of the Scattered Stars Island had activated an extremely strict review mechanism, resulting in the number of people who passed the test every day at most. This made the huge army that descended to the mortal world slowly feel the malice. Especially when some descendants of the big clans pretended to be ordinary people and were discovered and sent back, countless people were furious. Zhang Tao. At this moment, he was standing in the middle of the enchanting array. There were thousands of anomalies in the array, and a voice was rolling in his head like thunder. Zhang Tao, from the double immortal island of the Thousand Star City, an itinerant cultivator, a junior dangling fisher. When a string of information burst out, there seemed to be a power in the voice that was shaking his head. Where are you from? Zhang Tao struggled between his eyebrows. When the enchanting power was activated, a white light flashed between his eyebrows and broke through the illusion. Zhang Tao suddenly opened his eyes, revealing ecstasy. Immediately, he rolled his eyes. I'm from the double immortal island of the Thousand Star City. Which family are you from? When the second question was asked, Zhang Tao laughed disdainfully and said proudly, I'm an ordinary resident of the double immortal island. Relying on the Li family of the double immortal island, I often spend money to buy the trial rights of the Li family's trial field. Recently, I've really run out of money. These big clans are too cruel. Sure enough, Zhang Tao listened carefully. After a while, the third question came. What's your real purpose in coming to the Thousand Star City? Zhang Tao thought to himself, the normal answer is, of course, to become stronger and for resources. Just as Zhang Tao was about to say so, a voice suddenly rang out. This soul-enchanting 3 questions array was personally invented by this marshal, yet you actually have a way to avoid this marshal's spirit array. It seems you have the help of a mysterious artifact. Commander Han? Zhang Tao had a look of contempt just now, but at this moment he was horrified, and his heart seemed to be galloping with 10,000 iron-headed fish. He thought to himself, fuck, the Venerable of the Scattered Stars Island is personally guarding the teleportation array and interrogating the newcomers one by one? Isn't this Supreme Commander too fucking boring? While sighing, Zhang Tao thought to himself, oh no, this time it's over. How can I run back? Swish. Zhang Tao saw a figure suddenly appear in front of him. When he looked up, he saw a young man sneering. In the next moment, Zhang Tao felt that his soul no longer belonged to him, and the immortal seal in his body was instantly broken. Han Fei had been waiting here for a day and deliberately let a member of the Zhang family come here. How could he not be right? At this moment, as soon as the soul-searching technique was used, a soul-type secret treasure immediately tried to self-destruct. But the soul-type secret treasure was caught by the void lines and directly torn into pieces. It didn't have any effect at all. Zhang Tao, a foreign disciple of the Zhang family. Heh, what an excellent foreign disciple. What a pity. Under Han Fei's feet, the phantom of a mountain and river appeared, and Zhang Tao was directly thrown in. Han Fei said, "Tree spirit, tie him up and don't let him self-destruct." "Yes, master." After instructing Tree Spirit with a thought, Han Fei began to shrink, and his realm plummeted to that of a junior hidden fisher. His skin became whiter and his body became fatter. Han Fei used the deception technique incisively and vividly. Plop, there were only a total of 8 entrances to the Scattered Stars Island in the Thousand Star City. Excluding those islands that were uninhabited, there was only one teleportation array for every 3 islands. However, no matter which teleportation array it was already crowded. Suddenly, a person flew out of the teleportation array from the Dual Immortal Island to the Scattered Stars Island, vomiting blood. Immediately, many people moved aside and watched Zhang Tao roll dozens of times on the ground. The big clans are really unwilling to give up. There are already so many of them and they still want to send more people in? Since the Scattered Stars Island has fallen out with the big clans, they naturally have a way to know who is from the big clans. Trying to muddle through? What is this person thinking? Someone shouted, "What the hell? You know you can't pass, but you insist on occupying a spot. Believe it or not, I'll beat you to death." Some people directly attacked, slashing out blades, and some took out long swords. For a moment, blades and swords danced wildly, and many people really wanted to cut Zhang Tao into halves. But for the aristocratic families, they would dare to make a fuss. But if they were directly killed, no one here would dare to do so. Zhang Tao, however, jumped out in a hurry with a gloomy face. Looking back, he muttered to himself, "It shouldn't be. That array can shatter a secret treasure?" Soon after Zhang Tao escaped, a person suddenly appeared next to him. The person, dressed in a green robe, stood next to Zhang Tao, looked at the crowd, and said casually, "You are the 1078th example of the Zhang family's failure. I thought your soul treasure was not bad, but you were killed directly. Okay, go back to your family. It seems that the Scattered Stars Island has been prepared for this." Yes, Master Qing, that soul confusion array was too terrifying. It didn't seem to be an ordinary array. Even my soul treasure was torn apart. Please help me, Master Qing. The steward impatiently tossed a small token to him and said, "Go back and take a look at the warehouse yourself. Find something to make up for it. That's enough." Han Fei took the token and smiled inwardly. "Zhang Mingquan, I promised you that I would come sooner or later. Now I'm here." Chapter 1459. Last time, the Faceless Man's attack on the Thousand Star City was doomed to fail. The number of venerables that appeared last time was far less than the number of venerables that appeared on the Scattered Stars Island. This showed that there were still venerables hiding in this giant city. As for their hidden goal, no one knew what it was. The Zhang family had already lost a venerable, and then Zhang Zhihua appeared, who was only at the peak of the elementary level. The one who could challenge Old Han and the others should be an advanced venerable of the Zhang family. In other words, there were at least 3 venerables in the Zhang family before, and now there were at least 2 venerables. This was a big family that had survived for thousands of years. The wealth of the family was gathered, and there were many descendants in the family. There would always be heavenly talents. Han Fei returned to the Zhang family as Zhang Tao. After completely reading Zhang Tao's life experience and personality, Han Fei smiled slightly. This Zhang Tao was a relatively outstanding figure among the foreign disciples. Because he obtained an opportunity in the trial field, he stood out among his peers. However, even if he was a heavenly talent among the foreign disciples, he was still a branch of the main family and couldn't enter the eyes of the main family. And it was very difficult for such a foreign disciple to enter the Zhang family's treasure house. This Zhang Tao had only entered the Zhang family's treasure house once in his life when he was a hanging fisher and a hidden fisher, and he only took 3 things from them. It was the Zhang family's treasure house that Han Fei saw from Zhang Tao's memory. But then he licked the corner of his mouth. As expected of a big family that had been recorded for thousands of years. Although Zhang Tao couldn't enter the depths of the treasure house, there were countless treasures on the periphery. Han Fei saw things such as tri-variant golden ginseng, semi-divine weapons, battle suit sets, protective arts, heaven-level combat skills, advanced energy fruits, and so on. These were all good things, but the big families seemed to believe in the way of raising and training, which meant that they couldn't give all the good things to you. Otherwise, if they gave you all the good things, wouldn't you become a useless person? Because generally, people who entered could only take 3 things at most. As for which 3 things, it was up to the person who entered. The Zhang family. A family known as the richest family of the Thousand Stars was located in the central area of the Gold Island, surrounded by 8 mountains. On these mountains, it was the place where the juniors of the Zhang family trained. Surrounded by mountains was the Zhang clan's main residence, which occupied an area of more than 500 square kilometers. Beyond that were the branches of the Zhang clan, separated by the Great River. The main branch was clearly separated, and no one was allowed to overstep their boundaries. At this moment, in the residence of the patriarch of the Zhang clan, the Zhang family's patriarch, Zhang Wanjin, looked at the Zhang Tao, who had returned, and frowned. You said that the soul confusion formation shattered your soul's secret treasure? Is your divine soul all right? Han Fei pretended to be respectful and hurriedly said, Master, no. That's just an array formation. There's no one presiding over it, or rather, I didn't even see the person presiding over it before I was blasted back. Zhang Wanjin sat on the patriarch's chair and snorted, All right, you've done your best. Go to the 3rd layer's treasury and look for 3, and for the sake of your soul artifact shattering, find 5 things. Hearing this, Han Fei was excited and hurriedly said, Thank you, Master. When Han Fei turned around, his eyes lit up, thinking that the art of deception was really good. With his current ability, it was easy for him to deceive a guy like Zhang Wanjin. Even an advanced venerable of the Zhang family couldn't tell him apart. Leaving the main residence, Han Fei went straight to the treasury on the east side. The Zhang family's treasury was also known as the Zhang family's pagoda. It was not until he reached this place that Han Fei discovered, to his surprise, that the Lingling treasure tower was the work of the Zhang family. In the 36 towns, the exquisite treasure pagoda could be found, but it had always been said that the exquisite treasure pagoda was only established by a large chamber of commerce in the 36 towns. Han Fei didn't expect that the Zhang family in the Thousand-Star City was the source of the rumor. However, different from the regular exquisite treasure pagoda, the one that Han Fei saw was not exquisite at all. It was a black 6-floored octagonal pagoda. It didn't look big at all. Theoretically speaking, it shouldn't be the Zhang family's treasury at all. However, judging from its shape, Han Fei knew that there must be another world in the tower, or at least another space. Staring at Zhang Tao's leather bag, Han Fei came to the pagoda openly. When he entered the treasury, a sleepy explorer old man saw Han Fei and didn't even greet him. Han Fei quickly handed out his token. Senior, the master asked me to find 5 useful things. The old man seemed to be half asleep. He nodded and said, Go to the left side of the door and pass 2 teleportation arrays. Find them yourself. Yes, senior. In the Zhang family, Zhang Tao, a junior from another clan, was naturally not familiar with the guardian of the Zhang family's treasury. Therefore, it was only natural for Han Fei to call him senior. When Han Fei was about to enter the door, he suddenly heard a crisp voice behind him. Sixth Grandpa, I'm here to return the classics of the clan. Can I borrow a few more by the way? The old man immediately grinned. Yo. It's Xiao Xiao. Why not? You can choose whatever you want on the third floor. Don't be so distant. It was a slim and graceful girl. Next to the girl were two boys of the same age. They seemed to be here to escort her. Han Fei glanced at her and immediately had an impression of her. This girl seemed to be the little girl who came out of the sea quelling painting, right? He didn't expect that she had grown so big in the blink of an eye. As if noticing Han Fei's gaze, a young man next to Zhang Xiaoqiao immediately shouted, "What are you looking at? As a junior from another clan, you have a chance to enter the treasury. What are you waiting for?" The old man who was called Sixth Grandpa also glanced at Han Fei casually. "You can go in now." Han Fei cupped his hands. Zhang Xiaoqiao, on the other hand, didn't feel anything. She glanced at Han Fei as if he were a stranger who had just passed by. When Han Fei entered the treasury, he immediately appeared in a super large storage room with no end in sight. To be precise, it was more like a chic library or collection hall. There were wooden bookshelves with all kinds of battle skills and secret techniques on them. There were also sealed holes with halos flowing around them, as if one had to break through the layers of halos in order to get to the things inside. There were also display shelves of different heights with all kinds of exhibits on them, shining brightly. Han Fei swore that if Master Hexagon Starfish saw this treasury, it would definitely be stunned. Han Fei asked the old turtle in his heart, "Old Yuan, is there a venerable guarding this tower? How strong is he?" Of course, Han Fei didn't believe that the Zhang family's treasury would be unguarded. How could there be no venerable guarding such an important place? As everyone knew, the Zhang family was a 1,000-star tycoon. If there were no strong masters guarding this place, how could they guard this fortune? The old turtle said, "There are no guards on the lower floors, but there is an independent small building on the 6th floor. There is the aura of a strong master there. Judging by the aura, that person must be at least an advanced peak-level venerable." Han Fei was slightly relieved. That's good. The strength of an advanced peak-level venerable was actually comparable to that of the Heavenly Sword Master, only one step away from the peak level. It was impossible for Han Fei to defeat such a strong master in a head-on fight, unless he had the power of half a king and could kill the other party easily. But Han Fei hadn't become a venerable yet, so he certainly didn't have that ability. He could only think about how to rob the Zhang family's treasury. A treasury that was guarded by an advanced venerable didn't need anyone else to guard it. Besides, this treasury was in the hinterland of the Zhang family. Within 1,000 kilometers, there were other venerables, so he didn't have to worry that someone would rob the Zhang family's treasury. Swish! Han Fei crossed 2 teleportation arrays in a row and came directly to the 3rd floor of the treasury. Not surprisingly, this floor of the treasure vault was specially designed for hidden fissures. Obviously different from the 1st floor of the treasury, there weren't many combat skills and arts on this floor, but all kinds of weapons. From ultra-quality spiritual weapons to divine weapons and even ultra-quality divine weapons, there was everything. There were also all kinds of spiritual fruits, crystals, spiritual springs, spirit awakening fluid, sea demon corpses. Han Fei didn't intend to loot the entire treasury now. It was meaningless. These things were no different from waste to him. What he wanted was the 7th level of the void fishing art. This great technique was his real pursuit. Once he got it, it would be more meaningful than looting the Zhang family's treasury. Of course, it would be even better if he could loot the Zhang family's treasury. The hidden fissure-level treasury stretched for dozens of kilometers. Han Fei pretended to wander inside. He knew that someone was watching him at this moment. If he took one more, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, in fact, Han Fei was just looking for an opportunity to use the Gemini Divine technique. After half an hour, in a corner of the treasury. Xiao Xiao, this silk 1,000-thread technique is a heaven-level high-quality combat skill, most suitable for girls to cultivate. Ordinary people with spiritual heritage can't cultivate it at all, but you are different. With a level 7 spiritual heritage, you can definitely cultivate it. Xiao Xiao, here is a 10,000 spirit pearl. As a spirit gatherer, this thing can help you store spiritual energy. You can have spiritual energy in reserve in times of war. This is a good thing. The two boys were chasing the little girl to show off their treasures, but the girl didn't seem to hear them at all. She walked forward quickly and seemed to want to get rid of them. Suddenly, the little girl saw that the man who entered the door with her was looking at a calligraphy and painting flying on a square cabinet. However, there was a seal on the calligraphy and painting. Zhang Qiaoqiao couldn't help but be curious. She had seen this painting before. There shouldn't be anything special about it, right? Immediately, Zhang Qiaoqiao went straight over and asked, "This painting is just a killing array. It's a disposable item. Do you want me to take it for you?" Next to Zhang Qiaoqiao, a boy said, "Qiaoqiao's help is not needed. I have to do it." Another person said, "Go away. Do you have the ability to take it? Let me do it." Han Fei tilted his head and glanced at her. "This is not a killing array. This is a visualization painting." First, asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1460. The two boys suddenly became angry, and one of them said, "What? Are you saying that our Qiao made a mistake?" Outsider boy, I'll give you a chance to reorganize your words. Is this a killing array or a visualization painting? Han Fei looked indifferent. This painting looks like a killing array, but if you look closely inside, the outer layer of ink is too thick as if it is covering something. Arrays are generally not drawn like this. So, there should be another layer below this painting. Zhang Qiaoqiao's eyes lit up and she couldn't help but look at Han Fei up and down. Under the glares of the two boys beside her, she asked curiously, "Then how do you know that this painting is a visualization painting?" Han Fei smiled gently. "Look, if you don't look at it, just look at the lines and words. Doesn't this painting look like a starfish? Pentagonal starfish. This shape looks like a formation, but what if it is a creature visualization painting?" One of the boys was also slightly shocked. This outer disciple is really something. However, this person's status was still too low. One of the boys said, "You said this is a visualization painting? Okay, if it is not, you can't take anything from the treasure house today." Yang Qiaoqiao shouted, "Yang Kong, Yang Cheng, can you two be more mature?" Zhang Qiaoqiao looked at Han Fei. "Sorry, I'm just curious about what kind of visualization painting this is. After you break it, can you let me have a look?" Han Fei smiled slightly. "I found this thing first. If you want to see it, how about helping me break it?" Suddenly, the two boys were angry. They had never seen such a shameless person. How dare he ask a girl to help him break the array? Zhang Qiaoqiao smiled faintly, but in her heart, she looked down on Han Fei. She just wanted to see it, not to take it. But this person asked her to break the array because she couldn't open it. Seeing that Zhang Qiaoqiao didn't respond, Han Fei said lightly, "Miss, can't you open it?" "Son of a bitch, what are you talking about? Is there anything that our Qiaoqiao cannot open? Bastard, which outsider are you? You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Even Zhang Qiaoqiao felt surprised. She had always been surrounded by people who flattered her. She didn't expect to meet someone different today. Seeing that Han Fei was not afraid at all, Zhang Qiaoqiao immediately shouted, "Shut up, you two. Let me see just how difficult this restriction is." In the next moment, a silver needle appeared in each of Zhang Qiaoqiao's hands. Swish, swish, swish. Ding, ding, ding. In an instant, hundreds of stab marks appeared on the seal, and the seal was densely packed with pinhole-sized damage. At this moment, Han Fei scratched his nose and saw a flash of spiritual energy on the seal. The silver needles controlled by Zhang Qiaoqiao were affected by the seal and accidentally collided with each other. Bang! In an instant, an explosion occurred. The silver needle weapon and the seal were destroyed together. Han Fei, Zhang Qiaoqiao, and the others were sent flying dozens of meters by the sudden explosion. Bang! Han Fei knocked over a water cabinet and saw that at the moment of the explosion, a big hand twisted the explosion. Zhang Qiaoqiao was sent flying, embarrassed and angry. She didn't expect that she would make such a fool of herself today because of her poor skills. Zhang Qiaoqiao said, "Thank you, Grandpa Six." The old man smiled and said, "It's okay. Qiaoqiao, you can continue to look at it. Although this painting is a visualization painting, it's actually not a good thing for you. The two boys who were sent flying had already climbed up with a grunt. They looked around and immediately fixed their eyes on Han Fei. The man threatened, "Boy, don't tell anyone about what happened today." Han Fei shrugged. "I don't have the habit of speaking ill of others behind their backs." Han Fei quickly got up, but he didn't see anyone. At the moment of the explosion, the moment Han Fei fell down, a shadow had already been lurking. At this moment, the painting had been opened. Hearing Han Fei's words, Zhang Qiaoqiao tried to uncover the painting. Sure enough, she saw a starfish map below. As soon as she saw this picture, Zhang Qiaoqiao seemed to immediately compare it with the visualization painting she cultivated in her heart. Zhang Qiaoqiao shook her head slightly. The two were about the same, but this one was a little worse. Zhang Qiaoqiao said, "This painting is yours. However, I hope you can be more aboveboard next time. If you can't get it, you should find someone else to take it." The two boys next to Zhang Qiaoqiao didn't scold her this time, but gloated. One of them said, "Qiaoqiao, the descendants of other clans have always been like this. Don't take it to heart." The other said, "Yes, Qiaoqiao, the descendants of other clans are scheming. This time, I've cheated you. Don't forget it next time." After Zhang Qiaoqiao and the others left, Han Fei shook his head slightly. She used to be quite sensible, but now she was also contaminated by the aura of a descendant of a big clan. However, her attitude was not right. Sure enough, the big clans were a place that could corrupt people's hearts. However, Han Fei didn't take it to heart. His purpose had been achieved. He quickly found an energy fruit, a battle suit, a long knife, and a heaven-level high-quality secret technique. In the eyes of outsiders, these things and a visualization painting were definitely a great harvest for Han Fei. When leaving the treasury, Han Fei went to the door again and said respectfully to Grandpa Six, "Senior, I've chosen the 5 items." "Lucky boy, go ahead." "Yes, Senior." After he left the main family, no one paid attention to Han Fei, a nobody. Even so, Han Fei pretended to be cautious and quickly returned to his home, closed the door, and immediately began to ponder the visualization painting. Late at night, a black shadow quietly appeared on the 4th floor of the Zhang family's treasury. There must be a mechanism when the teleportation array was activated. But this treasury could be a small world at any time, but it couldn't be separated from the laws of nature. If there was a teleportation array, there would naturally be a normal entrance. Han Fei quietly bypassed this floor and immediately said to the old turtle, "Old Yuan, remember one thing. Don't care about anything else, just help me find the 7th level of the true spirit fishing art." The old turtle was puzzled. "You sneaked in just to find a technique?" Han Fei sneered. "You don't understand. How can something I found in person be bad?" The old turtle thought for a moment. What kind of person was Han Fei? If it wasn't something absolutely important to him, why would he enter the enemy's camp and forcefully take it? A moment later, the old turtle said, "No, this emperor is certain that the strongest cultivation technique on this floor is only a top-grade heaven-rank cultivation technique. There is nothing stronger." Han Fei asked, "Is there such a name in the heaven-level low-quality and heaven-level mid-quality?" Old turtle, "No." Han Fei's heart sank. "Let's continue. There are 2 more floors up. I don't believe I can't find it." On the 5th floor, Han Fei stayed at the entrance. His body was completely attached to the shadow, and ordinary people couldn't find him at all. Who would scan their own treasure vault over and over again? Even if he did, he might not be able to find it. Han Fei was drooling at this moment. This floor was actually reserved for the explorers. Although most of them were useless to him. However, they were all very expensive. Especially the spiritual fruit vault, he could give up everything else, but he couldn't lack energy fruits. He could rely on this to help him become a venerable. After a moment, the old turtle said, "Next floor." The 6th floor was different from the previous floors. On this floor, when Han Fei just found the entrance, he felt something was wrong. This place was shrouded by the pressure of a strong master. Even the appearance of a thin hair would be detected. Han Fei said, "Old Yuan, It's up to you. The old turtle was speechless, but there was nothing he could do. Han Fei had already come to court death. A layer of black mist suddenly descended, shaped like a turtle shell. Turtle shell sky sealing technique. The old turtle said, I've sealed a 10-kilometer space. It can be said that this entire treasury is under my control. Release your soul and look for it quickly. Then run away quickly. Hearing this, Han Fei didn't dare to neglect. He scanned with his perception and immediately found all the cultivation technique manuals on this floor. He had to admit that the Zhang clan was indeed a big clan that had existed for millions of years. There were as many as 2,168 venerable realm cultivation techniques on this floor. Han Fei scanned with his perception and immediately saw the 6th and 7th floors of the true spirit fishing art, neatly arranged again. Phew! Han Fei breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the Zhang family didn't discover the secret of the true spirit fishing art and just stored it as an ordinary cultivation technique. However, Han Fei couldn't just take this one. Han Fei waved his hand and swept away all the cultivation techniques. Then, a large number of spiritual fruits were swept away. Wherever he went, everything was swept away. There was a venerable realm fish bone sealed in a restriction. Han Fei teleported, entered the restriction, and collected the venerable bone. There was a spiritual medicine with a strange light, called the heaven-breaking pill. It must be extraordinary. There was also a pill called the enlightenment pill. There were only 3 in the entire Zhang family. How could Han Fei put it away? He continued. In addition, Han Fei found a total of 3 incomplete sea-quelling bizarre treasures and a complete long whip, which was a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. Han Fei beamed with joy. Whip weapons are most suitable for Luo Xiaobai. After a while, Han Fei's forged the universe was filled with all kinds of rare treasures. When all the places were cleaned up, the rest, no matter what was left, was extremely dazzling. And on the top floor of the Zhang family's treasure house, there were not many things that could be ignored by Han Fei here. And now in front of Han Fei's eyes, there was one. A black bead, covered with dust, rolled into a corner on the ground. When he saw the bead, Han Fei was slightly confused, wondering why there was a bead in the middle of a pile of treasures. Was it left behind? Forget it. Let's take it away first. The second one, asking for votes. The third one is a little later, before 8 o'clock. Let me recover. Moi, end of this chapter. Chapter 1461. If Han Fei wanted to leave, the turtle shell heaven sealing technique would be activated. The old turtle said, if you leave now, you'll probably be exposed. Han Fei said disdainfully, so what? It doesn't matter if they find me. I'll come to the 1,000-star city sooner or later, and I'll rob the Zhang family sooner or later. As the saying goes, strike the iron while it's hot. I'll kill them now so that they won't have to come again later. Even Han Fei himself didn't know whether his black fog body had been discovered or not. At least, his black fog body could be discovered as long as he focused enough. With that, Han Fei took out the venerable token. Outside, on the pure sun island, the void was broken, and the aura of a strong master bloomed. As soon as the void was broken, many people in the 1,000-star city suddenly opened their eyes. The pure sun island was the territory of the Thug Academy. Although it had been pushed down several times. So what? The war that took place on this land announced to the outside world that no matter whether the Thug Academy was here or not, this place was the territory of the Thug Academy. As early as when the big clans of the 1,000-star city returned to the 1,000-star city, they had already included this place in the scope of inspection. The Chu sect and Old Monster Chu immediately looked at this place. The venerables saw a graceful figure pointing her jade-like hand here, and an array map appeared. Old Monster Chu immediately took action. He crossed the void and grabbed at the graceful figure. In fact, only Old Monster Chu could be so fast. This was the unique power of a half-king realm powerhouse. Peaceful turned around and took a step. She was 1,000 miles away. Old Monster Chu's grab missed, but Peaceful's slap was coming at him from 1,000 miles away. Bam! Above the pure sun island, A huge void vortex appeared, and terrifying energy ripples directly set off thousands of miles of light and shook thousands of stars. Old Monster Chu shouted, "Do you really think there's no one in the Thousand-Star City? How dare you set foot on the Thousand-Star Island in just 3 months?" Peaceful didn't speak. This was the first time Han Fei had asked her to take action. And this time, she didn't help him kill the enemy, nor did she save his life, but to help him create a diversion. On the Pure Sun Island, the moment the two half-king realm powerhouses attacked. In the Zhang family's treasury, a black shadow suddenly dissipated. When the black shadow dissipated, the entire island shook. The treasury trembled and a voice shouted, "Who is it?" Han Fei's white mist body had already set up an array. At the moment when the two became one, Han Fei had already stepped into the formation and disappeared. The remnants of the teleportation array had yet to fade away, and Zhang Tao's residence was instantly reduced to dust. The teleportation array had already been distorted, and then it was annihilated, leaving not a single trace behind. Outside the Zhang clan, near Zhang Tao's residence, many people knelt on the ground. They were all furious, afraid that Zhang Tao had done something wrong. In the blink of an eye, Zhang Wanjin and Zhang Jihua rushed to the treasure vault. Looking at the empty treasure vault above the 6-story pagoda, they were dumbfounded. Zhang Wanjin was dumbfounded on the spot. An entire floor of treasures was lost under the watch of an advanced venerable. How was that possible? The guard's expression was extremely ugly. He gritted his teeth and said, "There are a total of 11 people who entered the treasury today." It had already been confirmed that he was an outsider named Zhang Tao. This guy escaped too fast. He had already set up a teleportation array. Zhang Jihua took a deep breath. There seems to be a strange phenomenon on the Pure Sun Island. Almost at the same time, our Zhang clan was robbed. I'm afraid these two people have some connection. Zhang Wanjin said, "He's good at arrays and stealth. This person must be at least a venerable to be able to hide from the fallen ancestor. Who in the Thug Academy has the strength to come and go without being noticed? Could it be Immortal Li?" Zhang Jihua shook his head. "No. Impossible. Immortal Li is now an undead creature. If he came here, he would definitely leave traces here. Besides, this technique seems quite familiar to me. It looks like Han Fei." Although Zhang Jihua hadn't been on the Scattered Stars Island for a long time, he had heard a lot about Han Fei. Swish. Zhang Yun, the guard of the Zhang family's treasure vault, directly broke the void and stepped out. Han Fei was really annoying. "You stole things, but you didn't even let go of the cabinets and booths. Are you going to take them back as decorations?" When Zhang Jihua mentioned Han Fei, both Zhang Yun and Zhang Wanjin actually believed him. In the battle on the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei's ability had already been shown. This guy was bold, ambitious, and confident. The only thing he lacked was strength. However, pure strength couldn't measure Han Fei's true ability. This guy had the experience of being a half-king. The Zhang clan was robbed. Han Fei is here. Immediately, the venerable powerhouses of the big families of the Thousand-Star City appeared one after another. No one knew that these people were out. But their scope of investigation was extremely wide. Of course, as early as when Old Monster Chu took action, these people were already vigilant. Especially when Old Monster Chu attacked in the direction of the Pure Sun Island, which made their hearts jump. If something happened to the Pure Sun Island, it was related to the Thug Academy. Now that the two sides were like fire and water, only one side could survive. Therefore, most of the venerables still looked at the Pure Sun Island. However, while these venerables were looking at the Pure Sun Island, no one looked at the Ideal Palace. Some people were even looking at the God's Memorial Tower, but no one was looking at the Ideal Palace. Because everyone knew that Han Fei had been to the Ideal Palace and had obtained a big opportunity in the Ideal Palace, so it was meaningless for Han Fei to go there again. However, they didn't know that Han Fei came out with his memories. The opportunities in the Ideal Palace were far from being taken by him. For example, he hadn't obtained the golden page in the mouth of the Azure Dragon in the Sea Soul Realm. Also, did he miss the prehistoric Soul Realm back then? What he went to was definitely not the reincarnation soul realm. He didn't know if he could go there again. And the last soul realm, he hadn't walked through it yet. He hadn't walked through the final divine temple of creation yet. At this moment, Han Fei casually turned into a passerby and walked on the white jade bridge of the ideal palace. After a few steps, he completely entered the ideal palace. Not deliberately avoiding the teleportation array under his feet, Han Fei was directly teleported to an unknown place, waiting for the fog to descend and cover him. This time, Han Fei waited for more than 10 minutes before he slowly fell asleep. Outside the Pure Sun Island. Outside the Pure Sun Island, peaceful and old Monster Chu retreated. When she sensed that the aura of the venerable token had disappeared, she knew it was time for her to retreat. As a matter of fact, old Monster Chu and Peaceful had just exchanged 3 moves, causing the sky to change color and the stars to sink. In the end, the opponent ran. This made many venerables who rushed over dumbfounded. "What's going on?" Old Monster Chu said, "The newcomer is a demi-king. Don't underestimate her." If I remember correctly, this person smashed Sun Xiaotian with one slap. The newcomer looked around. What does she want to do? Zhang Yun of the Zhang family gnashed his teeth and said, "She's making a diversion." The appearance of a demi-king attracted the attention of all the strong masters. Han Fei took this opportunity to loot our Zhang family's treasure house and escape calmly. Good, Han Fei, you're forcing us to start a war." Someone rolled his eyes. Who the fuck asked the Zhang family to be rich? Besides, the war had already started. When they fought for the king's corpse, there was no room for negotiation between the two sides. However, they didn't expect that only 3 months later, Han Fei had already set his sights on the Thousand-Star City. Someone said, "This kid must go to one of the 2 places. It's either the Thousand-Star Proving Ground or the God's Memorial Tower. I don't believe that his purpose is just to loot the Zhang family." Old Freak Chu shouted, "Right now, our races are of the same breath and branch. Han Fei is not here, and the strong masters are with him. Then it's best if someone can go to the Scattered Stars Island to find out the truth." All of a sudden, the group of supremacies looked at each other. What a joke! If he left the family now, what if his family was robbed? Old Monster Chu said, "The Yi family is the fastest. If the venerable of the Yi family can go, I can take care of the Yi family. A few days should be enough for the investigation." A venerable of the Yi family was stunned. "Damn, you're the fastest." "I'm fast, but what if he's a demi-king? Do you want me to die?" The venerable of the Yi family said, "The Zhang family controls the exquisite treasure tower, so it's very convenient for them to go to the Scattered Stars Island." The venerable of the Zhang family asked, "How can ordinary people get in touch with people at Han Fei's level?" While they were talking, Han Fei had re-entered the ideal palace. This time, Han Fei's goal was very clear. He went straight to the entrance of the 3rd soul realm, the Sea World Soul Realm. Outside the entrance, many people were shouting. They were all a group of people who wanted to buy soul crystals and explore the soul realm together. It was a common thing for Han Fei to enter alone, so no one paid attention to him. Different from the first time he came here, Han Fei now had the power of faith in him. If a large sea creature appeared here again, he wouldn't hesitate to slash again. 2 hours later, Han Fei stood in the extreme depths of the Sea World Soul Realm. When he felt the terrifying aura coming, his body stopped trembling. The power of the indestructible golden body gave Han Fei enough confidence to stay calm in front of this dragon soul. When the huge dragon head appeared slightly, Han Fei said, "Senior, I've searched thousands of mountains and rivers and experienced 81 tribulations. Finally, I found some dragon bones. Senior, please take a look and see if this is your body." As he spoke, Han Fei took out a section of dragon bone nearly 100 meters long. Oh, a strange look flashed in the scarlet and cold giant eyes. "This bone is indeed a dragon bone, but it's not my body. You seem to have become much stronger. Your body seems to be strong enough to bear me." Chapter 1462. When the Azure Dragon Soul Shadow said this to Han Fei, Han Fei wasn't as nervous as before. If he hadn't experienced the battle on the island, Han Fei would still think that the dragon race was not an enemy. However, the reason why he came to this Sea Soul realm as soon as he entered the Ideal Palace was to see if this Azure Dragon Soul realm was good or bad. When the Azure Dragon Soul Shadow said this, Han Fei no longer regarded this dragon as a dragon. Instead, Han Fei looked at the Azure Dragon quietly and said lightly, "So, Senior, what do you want?" The Azure Dragon Soul Shadow seemed a little surprised. Isn't Han Fei afraid at all? Does he have something to rely on, or is he really not afraid of me? The Azure Dragon asked, "Aren't you afraid that I will destroy your soul, take your body, and reincarnate?" Han Fei grinned and said, "If you want, you can have a try. If you don't want to, then it's time to give me the page in your mouth. If the dragon bones I take out now are not yours, then your bones must be in a place where I can't go. And your golden page is the key." Now was not the time to offend this Azure Dragon. Since there was a golden page in this guy's mouth, and that page was probably given to him by me. Then, this meant that even if this Azure Dragon was not a good person, he had to cooperate with me for some reasons. So, he was qualified to take care of the golden page. The Azure Dragon Soul Shadow opened its mouth slightly. However, the golden page didn't appear immediately. He said, "After all, you didn't bring my body here. How can I give it to you?" Han Fei shrugged slightly. "Senior, you must have been waiting here for tens of thousands of years, right? After such a long time, no one has been able to bring your bones back. Senior, do you think you should give me this opportunity? If you don't trust me and have to give me the page, why don't you give me another benefit? Of course, this benefit can't be small." At this time, Han Fei was more and more relaxed. Everyone had their own weaknesses. Since this Azure Dragon Soul Shadow was in charge of the golden page, he might not be able to kill him. Even if it was someone else who met his conditions, he might not necessarily kill him. The reason why he asked Han Fei to look for the skeletons was because Han Fei felt that this might not be the only condition to obtain the golden page. Sure enough, the Azure Dragon pondered for a moment and finally said, "It's not like I can't give you this page. However, you have to promise me something." Han Fei smiled. "Senior, please go ahead." The Song Dragon said, "I swear by the great Tao that you will help me get my dragon body back." Han Fei smiled. "No problem. However, what benefits are you prepared to give me?" The huge eyeball of the Azure Dragon stared at Han Fei and said in a deep voice, "I will give you a drop of Azure Dragon Essence blood and a dragon transformation technique." In order to learn the dragon transformation technique, one must have the blood essence of an Azure Dragon. You can only transform into a dragon if your bloodline contains the blood essence of a dragon. Once you transform into a dragon, you will be considered a collateral descendant of my dragon clan. In the future, if you see the Great Era, it will only be beneficial to you. Han Fei touched his chin. "Well, it sounds very attractive." A moment later, when Han Fei finished the oath, the golden page floated towards him. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up. "Another golden page. Got it." Han Fei was really interested in the golden page. After all, he had seen old Han's fighting style. Was it the Big Dream Heavenly Book? That page was like a move of a grandmaster. There seemed to be no end to the paper, and it looked extremely awesome. He had already collected 4 golden pages in the Ideal Palace. Maybe when the 7 pages were fused, he would also get a super great technique. At this moment, the floating stone tablet appeared, and the gilded characters on it trembled slightly and were about to move. Han Fei's face changed slightly, and a thought flashed through his mind. He immediately used the illusion method of the Ideal Palace to extinguish the light of his name on the void stone tablet. Sure enough, Han Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It turned out that this void stone tablet didn't have to be ranked. The Ideal Palace gave everyone the ability to erase their own names. Unfortunately, there were not many people who could really make the void stone tablet appear. Therefore, no one had ever discovered this secret. Only those who didn't want to be noticed would prevent their names from appearing on the stone tablet, and only then would they discover this secret. Immediately, Han Fei left the Sea Soul realm with a smile. As soon as he came out, he heard the old turtle say, "Oh, that's a dragon soul. I want to ask, why didn't you just kill him? Your little calabash is not simple. A mere dragon soul can suppress him in the blink of an eye. Why do you have to swear by the great Tao?" Han Fei sneered. "I said to bring the bones, but I didn't say to give them to him." "Ha, this is not a violation of the oath. Besides, if it doesn't work, I'll find a way to kill him." Han Fei smiled faintly in his heart. Even the old turtle didn't know that he didn't swear by his great Tao, but by the black killer snail's great Tao of gravity. "What does this thing have to do with me?" Hearing Han Fei's words, the old turtle thought to himself, "This dragon is quite sad. Why did he meet such a person?" It turned out that Han Fei never wanted to give the real dragon bones to him. He even wanted to kill him a long time ago, but he didn't know it. Don't you think it's sad? It seems that I have to be stubborn when I swear by the great Tao in the future. Otherwise, who can I complain to if people like Han Fei take advantage of me? The Azure Dragon certainly knew that Han Fei was a person who could change his great Tao at any time. Such a person shouldn't exist in theory at all. In any case, a golden page had been obtained. Without hesitation, Han Fei entered the fourth soul realm, the prehistoric soul realm. He quickly found an empty mountainous area and began to dig holes to look for the visualization fossils. With his previous experience, Han Fei dug a hole and tried going in and out 13 times before he entered the death valley that he had been in before. During this period, Han Fei dug up as many as 20 visualization fossils. Among them, 3 were complete visualization fossils, although Han Fei didn't touch any of them. Han Fei wanted to see the scene that Luo Xiaobai, Lurenquang, and the others experienced. All under the king are ants. No one dares to kill a god in 100,000 years. Mortals can also open the gate of heaven, and my fate is in my own hands. These were all the experiences of Lurenquang and the others. However, even though he had excavated 13 times, he had never encountered any of these scenes. It wasn't until he re-entered the Death Valley that Han Fei confirmed that everyone had a different experience. His fortuitous encounter was most likely that inexplicable battle back then. Bam, bam, bam. After a while, when the beasts began to gallop, Han Fei began to rush forward. Now, Han Fei, who had learned the heavenly void divine walking technique, was even faster than the thunder leopard. In the end, when Han Fei saw the divine boat of creation, a giant ape appeared behind him, a colorful tiger roaring, a one-horned rhinoceros sprinting, and a thunder leopard flashing. Where are the beasts going? The giant ape appeared and roared loudly. Han Fei pondered carefully. This was not a beast king. This monkey was more like Ape 6. However, in the tide of beasts, Han Fei didn't dodge. This time, he didn't intend to turn into a little ape. No matter how strong the little ape was, it was still the power of an explorer. A real venerable or even a king could kill him with just a press of a finger. Last time, he transformed into a little ape and could only beat the shrimp soldiers and crab generals in the water. This time, Han Fei learned his lesson and ignored all the battles. He rushed all the way, stepped on the boat, and boarded the boat. To Han Fei's surprise, no one stopped him from boarding the boat, because Han Fei was a human. As soon as Han Fei came up, he heard a voice in the void. The human race has 2 paths. Some are exploring the sea, and some are fighting to the death. The beasts can't transcend the sea. It's not that I don't want to, but I can't. Go back. Oh. The ape roared angrily, jumped up violently, and jumped directly into the air. At this point, Han Fei knew that Ape 6 was going to die. Obviously, this was history. This event needed to be remembered, but he couldn't change it. Han Fei turned his head and didn't look at those crazy creatures again. On this big boat, there was a sea of people. Above the sky, there were still people fighting with the Sky Clan. However, at this moment, there was no heavenly crystal. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. It turned out that he was lucky that he didn't encounter such an opponent. Han Fei found a place at random and asked the person next to him, "Brother, do you know where we are going?" The man had just come down from the battle formation to rest. Seeing that Han Fei was fine, he immediately said angrily, Dongfeng, how did you get up here? Dongfeng? The battle between humans and apes ended very quickly. After all, this was just a miniature of history, not really according to the normal time. Not long after the battle, about 6 to 10 hours later, Han Fei was being arranged to go fishing. However, he heard a voice shaking on the boat. The man was very strong, and his terrifying power overwhelmed the entire big boat. He shouted, "Everyone, the voyage to hope has begun. No one knows how long we will sail and how far we will go. However, according to the prophecy, in the endless sea in the east, there is a lost land hidden. That is the best habitat for us humans." Han Fei's heart did a flip. It turned out that the purpose of appearing in this miniature of time was not to incarnate into an ape, but to see. Where would this divine boat of creation go? What would it encounter? This was the complete story, and this was a high score option. He would never become a member of the Beast Army and attack the big boat. First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1463. On the big boat, Han Fei didn't know whether the person just now was a demi-king or a real king. After all, he hadn't seen that person yet. It made sense. In the ideal palace, his strength was so weak. Even if he met a strong master, would they talk to him? On the giant boat, there were 3 floors. In each floor, there were 33 floors, for a total of 99 floors. In other words, this supergiant ship was 99 stories high. Some floors were particularly tall. Take the floor where Han Fei was, for example. Han Fei found a spiritual plant garden and even a small demonic beast garden. The first thing that came to Han Fei's mind was the story of Noah's Arkansas. However, before Han Fei had time to wander on this supergiant boat, he was immediately conscripted. The giant boat was conscripted to guard the giant boat. This ship was named the Explorer. The tens of thousands of people on the ship were determined to conquer this sea and find a territory that belonged to human beings. Maybe because of the acceleration of time, Han Fei only stayed on this ship for a day, but in the blink of an eye, several years seemed to have passed. In the blink of an eye, it seemed that decades had passed. Another day. Han Fei thought that on the 3rd day he heard a few explosions, and above the sky, cracks appeared frequently, which was the scene of the fall of the Venerables. In this battle, 7 Venerables died, and a rain of blood poured down. There was also a shocking crack, the sky and the earth changed color, and a mournful voice came from the 9th heaven. Han Fei took a deep breath. Is this the fall of a king? He didn't know if it was because he was trapped in the fog of history, but the old turtle didn't appear and seemed to be blocked. After this battle, Han Fei and countless others saw a strong master holding a big order, covered in blood, floating above the divine boat. The man shouted, "There is the divine land in the east, which is billions of miles wide. There are ancient trees in the sky, whose branches reach the 9th heaven. Even on this sea, there are 98,000 islands. Now I order the 9 clan grandmasters to lead the human race across the sea and rebuild the glory of our human race." On the divine boat, someone shouted excitedly, "We found a new land. We can get rid of the sea demons." Someone said with a solemn expression, "Something's wrong. Why did His Excellency have the Grand Monarchs lead us across the blue sea? Can't we just drive the divine boat over?" Someone looked at the sky. Things are definitely not as simple as they seem. If you want to survive in this vast ocean, I'm afraid you'll have to go through layers upon layers of bloodshed. Han Fei was like a spectator, although he really wanted to see the place where the strong were fighting. Over there, the heavens must have collapsed and the earth split. However, Han Fei was too weak at this moment. He could only go with the flow and was led by a venerable toward the east. However, before he could run far, he encountered the army of the Sea Tribe. It was different from the Sea Clan army on the Scattered Stars Island. There were thousands of different kinds of creatures in the army here. It seemed like they were sniping at the human ships. Originally, Han Fei thought that the Venerable would lead some explorers, some law enforcers, and a series of people with lower strength to attack. However, under the pursuit of the Sea Tribe, the Venerable One gave up on some of them and let the remaining explorer-level powerhouses lead the crowd to break through the encirclement and rush towards the east. This was just a battle to break through, so some strategic sacrifices were needed. The scene kept changing, and Han Fei followed the team for a long, long time. Originally, there were still tens of thousands of people in the team that Han Fei belonged to. However, as the scene changed several times, there were only thousands of people left. In this fog of history, they rushed left and right, and finally, in a battle, someone suddenly shouted, "Look, the land!" As this person shouted, Han Fei turned around and was already standing on the land alone. Why am I the only one who came up? Although Han Fei was used to this kind of abrupt plot changes, he still felt that there should be thousands of people on the island. He couldn't be the only one on the island, could he? Han Fei suddenly remembered that the strong master said before that there were 98,000 islands on the sea. Then, on the land, there would be a huge tree that stretched for billions of miles. However, he didn't see any of them at all. Han Fei was puzzled. I'm on the island? Then what was the meaning of this fog of history? To lead future generations to the east? Then what was in the east? The Beast Emperor went to the east, and the Beast King also went to the east. Now, the prehistoric giant boat was also sailing to the east. It seemed that all the prehistoric secrets he had encountered were hidden in the infinity of the east. Needless to say, there was definitely a big secret in the east. While Han Fei was wondering if he should look for the real land, the void steel suddenly appeared in front of him. On the stone tablet, Han Fei's name lit up. Han Fei was about to stop his ranking from rising. But then he gave up this behavior. Even if his name appeared on this stone tablet, so what? After leaving the ideal palace, others would have no memory of it. Since they had no memory, whether Han Fei's name appeared or not wouldn't have much effect. Besides, if Han Fei wanted the golden page, his ranking couldn't be low. After all, this prehistoric soul realm was different from the sea soul realm. In the sea soul realm, he knew exactly where the golden page was. But he knew nothing about this prehistoric soul realm. He let his name rise rapidly on the stone tablet. But after a while, Han Fei's name undoubtedly reached the top. Throughout history, Han Fei was the only one who walked the eastward journey of human beings. Although history was too short, it told Han Fei one thing very firmly: in the future, he would go to the east. Clatter! When Han Fei's name reached the top, sure enough, a golden page began to descend and slowly flew into Han Fei's hand. Then, it merged into Han Fei's body. Was this the end of this period of history? When Han Fei took the golden page, it automatically appeared in the first level of the prehistoric soul realm. Outside, everyone was in an uproar. What? Why did Han Fei's ranking change? When did Han Fei come to the Thousand-Star City? It is said that this guy became the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island and has a bad relationship with the big clans. How dare he come here? Damn. This is a tough guy. As soon as he came here, he occupied the top spot. Someone wondered, wait, if Han Fei occupied the top spot in the fourth soul realm, why didn't he occupy the top spot in the third soul realm? For a time, all kinds of news began to spread. The intelligence personnel immediately went to find the children of the big clans, preparing to sell information. Although the information in the soul realm couldn't be transmitted, there were still people willing to buy it. Swish, when a strange figure came out of the prehistoric soul realm, many people were stunned. However, they were only stunned for a moment and soon went to do their own things. They couldn't think that someone came out of the soul realm just because that person was Han Fei. Every day, there were so many people entering and leaving the soul realm. Who could tell them apart? Of course, there were also people who quickly glanced at Han Fei and remembered his appearance. Who cared if he was Han Fei or not? Just write it down and find someone from the big clans to sell it. After all, since the big clans began to pay attention to the Thug Academy, they began to pay attention to everyone who entered the soul realm. Han Fei looked at the stone tablet for a while, but in fact he was chatting with the old turtle. The old turtle said, "I just cut off contact with you. I'm clearly in your body, but we seem to be separated by time and can't communicate at all. Did you travel through time again?" Han Fei said, "I didn't travel through time. I entered a kind of historical fog. A timeline that is neither in the present nor in the past. The place I'm going to next may be even more mysterious. Han Fei took a deep breath. At this point, he had already obtained the golden pages of the top 5 soul realms. However, he really didn't dare to go to the reincarnation soul realm. If he were to experience what happened back then again, how troublesome would that be? When he passed by the 5th soul realm, that was the war soul realm, Han Fei found that the soul realm here was gone and the void stone tablet had collapsed. The soul realm disappeared? Han Fei frowned and hurried to the reincarnation soul realm. When he came here, he found that his name was really not on it. But Luo Xiaobai's name was on it, and she ranked 19th. Han Fei stood at the entrance of the soul realm and thought for a long time. Should I enter or not? The old turtle said, although this place is extraordinary, I'm afraid it's impossible for it to stop you now. Han Fei paused for a long time before saying, you don't understand. Fine, let's go in. Han Fei stepped into the entrance of the soul realm. However, in the next second, a magical scene appeared. Han Fei came out of the entrance again. Fortunately, few people came to the 6th and 7th soul realms. Otherwise, someone would have exclaimed. Han Fei was stunned. What did this mean? He had been to the city of Yu in the Age of Doom once, but now he couldn't go there? However, the one he went to was the real world. The one created by the ideal palace should be fake. He might not be able to enter the real one, but he couldn't enter the fake one either? That was a bit strange. The old turtle said, the rules of the Great Way there can't tolerate you at all. Boy, don't tell me you want to travel through time and return to ancient times? The rules of the Great Way don't allow it? The old turtle said, yes. In some places, certain people and certain forces have left too heavy a mark, heavy enough to change the cause and effect of the Great Way, and the rules of the Great Way will forcibly obliterate that alien. If it can't be obliterated, it won't repel it. This world is not a complete law of the Great Way. Otherwise, you wouldn't have entered and come out, but would have been forcibly killed. Han Fei frowned. So, I can't go to this reincarnation soul realm? What if I can't go to reincarnation? Then what about this golden page? What should he do with it? Since every soul realm had a golden page, this reincarnation soul realm should also have one. However, this reincarnation soul realm didn't allow him to enter at all. Damn it, it was hard to deal with this. Han Fei was shocked. There was still one person who could go in, and that was his sister who he had never seen before. However, if he had to go in such a big circle, he would have become a king long ago. At that time, would he still need this golden page? Han Fei shook his head slightly. If I can't get it, there's nothing I can do. I can only go to the 7th soul realm and have a look. The 2nd chapter. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.